Well, that was a little incorrect. Looks like we got things figured out, though. Welcome in. Welcome in. Welcome in. Hell yeah, dude. Let's go. It's Monday. Woo, dude. You got to have some kind of positivity about Monday because good Lord. Does the brain not like it? Welcome in, folks. Good to see you. I know how the mind can tell you when you wake up on a Monday that it's the new week and we gotta do new things. But think about it this way. One more week past, my friends, is another week behind us in the long journey towards whatever video game you're waiting for. For most of us, it's probably Star Citizen. In that regard, 1 week doesn't make all that much of a difference, but we're still 1 week closer. And today we're going to talk a little bit about the production, the development, the features, the ships. Folks, today's ship of the day that we're going over is the RSI Arrastra, which is a different kind of ship. Honestly, I feel like this is RSI's forgotten ship almost. Where the heck does it show up? Oh, in the latter half of I guess the first half of this is like mining stuff. This is a ship that was introduced to it 2 years ago now almost. November of 2023 as RSI's large mining ship, and it just kind of, where the heck did it go? So we're going to talk about that today. Also going to touch on some news, answer some questions, look at the hubbub surrounding the Meteor, because that ship's getting a rude awakening, a rude greeting, more of a rude greeting to the Star Citizen community. I also, though, want to talk about a couple of games that I've been really enjoying. One of which obviously you guys have seen, Dune Awakening. But also one of which you have not seen, The Altars. We're going to look at the gameplay of The Altars today, and I'm going to talk a little bit about why I like it so much, because it's a good game. And, also going to touch on the Verse project. We haven't talked about that in a little while, and they've made some progress on the roadmap. Figured we could touch up on it. And in the meantime, chill, chat, ask questions, answer answers, and make wonderful new memories on this glorifyingly hot day. Welcome into all of you. Hope you're having a lovely day, good week, a solid July. How's everyone doing? How are you all doing? Notification gang. Moshfratu, good to see you. Every day we inch closer to the release of Donkey Kong Bonanza. Are they making a sequel? Amazing. Thocky, good to see you, brother. I saw you in here nice and early. Welcome, Maverick. You as well, dropping the toes to get us started. Nasty Master, good to see you. Vastin, the cookie train conductor, Stronk Odonk. Forgot the Odonk. How you doing, Hot Soap, Rhino, Arctic Wolf Zero? Good to see you all today. Lord Skippy, we're blessed with a Skippy today. Are you back home? Ah, you made it home. Your car didn't. Whoa, what happened to your car, dude? You spend too much time camping out in it overnight? Not that he doesn't have a house, folks. His car is, he uses it for so many things that I don't use my car for. Maverick, thank you for the bits, dude. 69 bits, I wouldn't have guessed it. Could have written it down and I still wouldn't have guessed it. What do you think of the chances to get a rework / a new version, and then a rework of the MSR in the next few years? Dude, that's a really good question. I don't know why I hadn't thought about that. Michael said it's a 0.1% chance. The chances are low. My hopes, they're quite high. They're probably high enough that I should be in a hospital. They're high enough that I'm gonna be making where is it? I'll be making this noise. It would be amazing if we were able, like, if they made a generalized MSR as like one of these new variants that they're doing. but then also updated the MSR. Oh my gosh. Nah, that's too good to be true. I'm sorry, but I can't get myself that excited. I appreciate the thought though, Mr. Tiger. That's a good question. Oh, Deadly, good morning to ya. Hope you're all having a good Monday. Strongadonk, are you having a good Monday? Is everybody's Monday going well? If not, I will literally bring this stream to your house. Open your front door, shove the camera in your face, and force you to tell chat that your Monday is going well. That's not true. I won't do that. But I will force chat to make sure that your Monday is going well. The goal today is for everybody to leave this stream feeling better than when they came in. Hopefully that happens. Yeah, just like give away cars. Look under your seats, everybody. Whatever seat you're sitting in, look under it. Unless you're driving. Don't do that. Look at the road. There's a 50% chance that it is 100% chance the MSR gets a rework, but you're wrong 80% of the time, 20% of the time. 80% of that 20%? Like 16%? That's not cumulative. Hey, Matt. Welcome in. Victura, my barbecue seasoning, my man. Good to see you. You about to order some nice pizza? So pretty good here. Ooh, what kind of pizza you getting, dude? You doing the pineapple on the pizza? Or are you one of the faithful and you got that meat lovers? You know, it doesn't have to be meat lover. You like a little bit of beef here and there. My favorite pizza is a shawarma pizza. Unfortunately, I can only get that in Turkey. Sounds like good dinner for tonight. You're gonna have to slap the pizza fund on the stream overlay. Ironically, there's a Hot Wheels under your seat. I told you, you get a ship. Everybody gets a ship. Did you hear that? I'm pretty sure I was talking about that on stream the other day, how my joints just crack. Did you? Hey. You're doing the cheese with the cheese with the cheese. Dude, can we get a freaking full-on? Yes. This guy, bro. This guy's got cheese. Cheese. More cheese. I love to hear that, honestly. I used to love cheese pizza. Oh, not blue cheese, though. Oh. That's sacrilege. Oh, please don't put blue cheese on your pizza. Pizza doesn't deserve that. What's up, Chase Hammer? Thank you for the sub, dude. 2 months at tier 1. Yo, this guy subbed at tier 1. Thank you, my friend. I appreciate it. I have no idea where we are on beaten back Twitch on the whole 50-50 split thing. But if you look down below the channel, I think there's a meter that says how close we are. Tier 1 subs go towards that. So thank you for that. I really appreciate you, buddy. By the way, I'm seeing in chat some people are redeeming their points for that giveaway we got going. Thanks to the jaw-droppingly incredible support last stream, which made I don't know how much you guys are paying attention to the current momentum of Star Citizen, but June and July have been very bad months in terms of Star Citizen content and stuff. The last stream basically made July actually a possible month for us. So thank you so much for that. For that, we have gotten a new giveaway started. You guys all can get in on that. Doesn't matter if you did support or not. Exclamation point giveaways will make the link pop up. Head on in there and do your things. And then on Twitch, you guys can also input some of your points you get from watching this stream to getting additional entries into that giveaway. It's for an Asperia Prowler utility if you want to like stealth drop some boxes on top of somebody's head and look cool while doing it. I don't know when that ends. That would be a Mrs. Tomato question, but it should probably be like a week or two. Publicity has been a bitch lately. People are checked out. I mean, even I have, last 2 streams I was playing Dune. But the summers for Star Citizen are rough. The summers for video games are slower, but for Star Citizen, it's especially bad. And this year, kind of like last year, has just like some really weird situations that are all adding on top of each other to make it a pretty rough summer. One is a lot of the content that CIG has put out this year, to most people, has felt pretty one-dimensional in that it has enticed a ton of combat without adequately separating or at least delineating some sort of separation between gameplay types. So they haven't been putting out major things that bring in a whole bunch of players. A lot of the stuff has been marketed towards combat. I mean, we could just go back to the trailers. The trailers that they use to advertise these updates are no longer, if you look at every trailer for a patch, I actually put a video out that complained about this last year. It basically showed that every single patch trailer they put out had some form of combat in it, and that was indicative of just how combat focused the game is. Instead of like remedying that, they just started making all of the patch trailers focus on the main sandbox activity. So now we get full-on trailers basically for locations in the game, but again, they keep showing all the combat. And even if there's stuff in these events or these sandbox activities that don't require combat, it's hard to get around that when it's in your face. And basically all of the people who are watching this, going on Reddit, going on Twitter, talking on Discord, making posts on their blog spot, whatever it is, so many of those posts get made based on the fact that this is all combat oriented marketing. So then everybody thinks the game is combat all year. And the people who don't want combat are taking less and less time to put towards Star Citizen. Not to say that people are completely checking out, but putting 4 hours towards this game every week versus putting 1 hour towards this game every week has a huge effect when 90% of your community is doing, or 50% of your community is doing, or whatever. So that's been rough on its own, just based off trajectory. Obviously, in the summer, people want to get out of the house. They want to go do other things. So that affects every game. What else is there? I mean, Dune Awakening came out. That took a lot of attention away because, not going to lie, they actually do have a lot of things that I think appeal to the same kind of person. Like, I started playing Dune and I get it. I see it. I want to make a video about it, to be honest. On top of that, CIG also is like at the end of a 4 to 5 year momentum push, maybe like 3-year momentum push that has been extremely slow and laborious, that resulted in the launch of 4.0 and server meshing, but then slammed the door on features. I mean, there's still features leaking through, but like that momentum shift, I think, has put a lot of people on their back foot. It certainly put me on my back foot. I will not lie to you guys. I don't know what the my main channel is for right now. I'm quite lost when it comes to making videos on the main channel because the stuff that I like to do, which is cover kind of the feature development, doesn't really matter too much at the moment. And the stuff that I'm trying to do, which is like covering other things I like that aren't necessarily about features, don't really work. So I'm actually looking at starting a weekly news show, and I'm going to call it Space Games Weekly. And I want to release it every Monday to summarize all of the news from Star Citizen and what happened in the last week. But also I want to take from other games that I enjoy and games that like we cover here, maybe that are a little more common and popular in our community between me and you guys. Obviously that includes Dune Awakening, but also, as we've talked about recently, Jump Ship is the kind of game I would cover during that. We might dip into some Elite Dangerous stuff. Osiris Reborn, which is the new Expanse game coming out. And if there's ever another Halo game that we can get excited for, I'd probably include that in there too. But I think it's about time for me to start doing other space game stuff. because I do love Star Citizen and I'll always be covering it permanently, but it's incredibly hard to just kind of hit these summer months and not be sure if we can keep doing this stuff. And I like other games anyways. Besides that, I'm still going to keep doing the tomato talks every week, but that is something that I am kind of excited for. Hopefully somebody else's. I'm not seeing positive reactions in chat, but I'm also not seeing negative reactions. So that's good. But I'm hoping that gives me something that's a little more regular to do every week instead of racking my brain as to what feature we can cover when they're not even developing features anymore. It's unfortunate, but like, yeah, CIG has almost completely changed their communication style over this last year. Am I playing Dune? Yeah, I am. I've played 2 days. And probably going to play again this week at some point. Cool game, though. I am enjoying it. I want to talk about it today, actually, during this stream. You think we'll ever get engineering and SC to act like Jump Ship? Yes. Do you mean, what exactly do you mean? Like, good to see you, by the way, Jedi. If you're talking like you need to put out fires and remove power from certain things or save power by disabling things to make the ship run better, that kind of stuff, yeah. I think that's how it's going to be. Should look up Falling Frontier. Actually, that's another one we will include. Weirdly enough, this has actually caught me completely by surprise. I did a video about Falling Frontier. We did like a live segment here on the stream, and I posted it over to Space Tomato too. And it is actually one of the best performing videos on the channel now. Right here. Like, I would not have expected that at all. It got 32,000 views and people were very excited for it. I know that a lot of people have been interested in that game, so I'd be interested in covering it. It's just that it has been so not being released yet. that I've not been covering it as closely as I wanted to. But, you know, I don't have any bad feelings about that. He was a solo dev for a while, and he did a dang good job at it. Hooded Horse is a good publisher, so like I trust that they're going to do a good job with the game going forward. It's just a matter of whenever it comes out, and I'm looking forward to when it does. If anybody's interested, it is a space-based real-time strategy game. Looks a little bit like Homeworld with like the Expanse influence. Pretty cool. You are Space Tomato, not Star Citizen Tomato. This is true. Conscious decision. When is Chris Roberts coming on the podcast? Oh boy, that would be funny. Honestly, I would want to do like at least a 2-minute segment with Chris where we just debate via hands. We have to cut off all audio and me and him just kind of have to like talk using our hands. Do a little bit of this and he's like, "Oh, I'm leaving. I'm off this show now." Like, no, I didn't mean it. I didn't mean it. Wrong hand movement. Seems like they're all hands on deck for Squadron. Yeah, it does. It does, doesn't it? Strongadonk, I appreciate you, dude. Thank you so much for saying that. Mr. Raves, you'd love to have a video a week about everything Space Games news. 100% will tune in. Awesome. Good to hear. Thank you. I'm probably going to put a poll out on the main channel about this. As much as I want to do it, I do want to make sure that I'm not putting in a whole bunch to a new format that doesn't actually resonate with the community. Maverick, much love, friend. Magion Cello. That's a fun name. Nice YouTube video again this morning. The one about the ships. Thank you for watching. Thanks for checking in and thanks for hopping in here to say what's up. Yeah, that's a video I've been wanting to put together for like about a month, but so much happened in June without actually so much happening that I didn't get a chance. Also been helping other people on games as well. Who's that? They have a Discord. It's also supposed to come to EA. Oh yeah, no, I'm on the Discord. I've actually talked. I've talked to. I can't remember his name right now. Talked to the developer quite a few times. He posted my video on his Discord, which I really appreciated. He's been helping others on games as well. Very talented to be putting together a game like that. Do you know anyone from CIG? They know you. Don't you have some connections? Yeah. I mean, I've talked to people from CIG. I don't have any. I would say I don't have any more connections than anybody who's like been to a bar citizen. Besides, you know, they might talk to me because I make videos or something. But in terms of getting information generally, the people that I know from CIG, I will like talk to about how they're doing as opposed to the work they're doing and that kind of stuff. I don't know. I don't want to like ever try and use that as a connection unless I'm doing the proper journalism kind of stuff. Oh, podcast opportunities. Well, yeah. Funny you asked, Michael. Did you see the podcast last year that we did about master modes? Yeah, Chase Hammer. You are right about that. Totally start a petition as a community to prioritize living in the verse, not fighting in the verse. There will be enough of that crap in Squadron 42. I'm wondering if there are just in warmonger mode and can't seem to remember why we're drawn to the verse in the first place, living there, not just fighting. I think you named exactly why it's happening is Squadron 42. There's enough of it in Squadron 42, and this year, I'd probably make some kind of video about this. This year is like 100% CIG's sit back and maintain year. They're putting out a ton of content. They're putting out a ton of ships, but all of this content and all of these ships are all based on stuff that's already existed. The Asgard, the Asperia Prowler, the Meteor, you even go back to last year with the Raven variants, the Terrapin Medical, the Fortune, the Hathor facilities used locations that were made for theaters of war. The ASD facilities used locations that were made for Arena Commander. All of these things are using assets they've already had, and they're all being based on gameplay that has had to be polished or at least developed because of Squadron 42. The new HUD we have, the looting screen, the interaction menu, the FPS radar, or not even radar, the minimap. All those things were created because of Squadron. If Squadron didn't exist, those things might matter. They might actually be in the game, but so would a whole bunch of other things. Because Squadron exists, we only got the stuff that they got ready for Squadron, and that's why all we're getting is combat stuff. I'm not going to go out on a limb and say, like, crucify me and take my firstborn if they don't eventually turn to industrial gameplay and science stuff and living in the verse, but I wholeheartedly believe that they understand the majority of people do not want to spend the majority of their time fighting. I think they're just in a really, really bad spot, to be honest. Squadron 42 took too long to make. I think Star Citizen could have taken as long as they ever wanted it to, but Squadron specifically, I think, took too long to make. Kind of wish Squadron 42 didn't exist. Star Citizen would be screwed without it, I think. At least as of right now. I'm trying to imagine if they had launched this whole project without Squadron 42 being part of the pitch. I do think Star Citizen would have done okay. I think it would have been fine. But I also do believe that Star Citizen will be better off because of Squadron's success. It wasn't necessary though. But that's like, at the end of the day, I think Squadron 42 is really what Chris wanted to make. Star Citizen was kind of like the bit that encompassed it, that held it together. It was the the cheese in the pizza. It's the car guard. The car guard. I'm doing terrible with names today, guys. Sorry. Welcome into the stream, buddy. Good to see you. Squadron is the initial pitch. That's what the original backers funded. I mean, they were both in the initial pitch. Not to discredit either project. They're both important. But there's definitely a big difference between a cinematic single-player game and a open MMO. Are they still doing episodes for Squadron, or have they gone away from the episodic release for the whole story? I think they still have episodes planned. I mean, episode 2 and 3 are already written. So it's not like they have a reason to move forward with those. But I think the creation of those will depend very heavily on whether or not this game actually succeeds. Squadron, I mean. If Squadron 42 does... What's considered a successful game launch? I'm thinking like a mid-range game launch, single player focused. Let's say it does well, but it doesn't break records. What would be a game like that? Like a recent released game like that. Let's see. Narrative single player games. Starfield? I mean, I don't know if it could. Starfield may not have been the best rated game or reviewed, but it was certainly a big name game. I don't think CIG will ever match Bethesda in its ability to spread the word about their game. So I wouldn't expect to do better than that. But let's say something like, where's something recent? Final Fantasy, Horizon Forbidden West. Y'all are naming some big freaking games, man. Although it's hard to name a game that's not big. That's the whole point of it being big, right? Yeah, I'm not gonna get like a good... Okay, I guess we'll pick something like you said. Horizon Forbidden West sales numbers. This is the part where I always fall down. I can never know. Like, what would be... Oh, yeah, no. See, 8.4 million copies? Not even close. If CIG sold 8.4 million copies of of Squadron of Squadron 42, we would be eating so f***ing good. Oh my god. I would... At that point, I'd be like, okay, stop selling ships completely. Just stop. Like you don't even need to anymore. That would be crazy. So probably not a good baseline to put down. 1 million sales are this great numbers. 1 million sales? I think that'd be good. Average AAA game sales numbers. Let's see what comes up. Anybody work in this industry? Got your finger on the pulse? Toes. This person says... archived. Monstratus, you pushed buttons, dude? Thank you. You've pushed buttons for 26 months, Twitch is telling me. Thank you for pushing buttons and supporting the stream. We do really appreciate you. Hope you're having a good week, dude. We have to factor in the many of us that have a $20 Squadron 42 sitting in our hangar. Yeah, there's a lot of people who already own Squadron 42. All right, let's look at indie game sales, huh? Let's see. Indie game segment has come close to AAA and AA sales, accounting for 48% of the revenue on Steam year to date. What are the numbers? They're just talking money numbers here. Black Myth Wukong grossed $1 billion. Jesus. More than all other 2024 indie releases combined. That is insane. Middle market. Okay, here we go. VG Insights divides the indie market into 4 segments. Triple I, which is 50 plus people on the team. I think CIG qualifies for that. And they say over 1 million copies sold and 50 million in revenue. So they want to do way more than that. 1 million copies sold would be a huge failure for Squadron 42, I think. On the other hand, though, 10 million sounds like way too much. So, like, how about 5 million? What video game has sold 5 million copies? Come on, Google. Peak Smash has passed 5 million copies sold in under a month. Aggro Crab. Aggro Crab. Should we compare to Aggro Crab, guys? What is Peak? Oh, that's the climbing game. I heard about that. Pow World sold over 5 million in 3 days. Best-selling video games of all time. 6 sells 5 million copies. Honestly, 5 million seems like a... You've been playing Peak? All we're going to hear is that it cost $1 billion and took 15 years, regardless if it is good or sells well. That will be the headlines. But you know what's funny about these companies that put out articles about CIG or Star Citizen? And their articles are focused on how much money it's cost, how much time it's gone. Is it a freaking... what's it called? What's the freaking name of the thing? Money laundering operation, all this stuff. You go and you click into the actual article corresponding to those, and they're always so normal. They're so casual game article vibes. They just name what happened in the latest patch, how much money it's raised, how much long it's been in development, and then move on. It's never an article about questioning whether or not it's a scam or if it's actually going to go anywhere, anything like that. Most of the articles are like, they've done this, they've made this progress, it's taking a while, we'll wait and see. Some go a little bit further, but I think there's like this really bad sort of habit of these news companies of doing the whole clickbait thing with their headlines, and it leads to people considering Star Citizen to be something different than it is, which is just a struggling, mismanaged, gigantic project that bit off more than it can chew. It's a good project. It's a lot of fun, freaking exciting to follow, an absolute joy to play at times. But I think at this point, there's no denying that they are absolutely prone to making some blunders. Does it really need to do that well if they don't want to recoup the normal costs of game development since it's mostly been crowdfunded? Well, it doesn't need to do that well. I just think that as well as it does is what we can take as being how good Star Citizen will be. I think Star Citizen will be directly proportionally better based on how well Squadron 42 sells. Because Squadron 42 needs to pay back some investments, it needs to pay off their new studio, and it needs to guarantee that the company can keep its headcount for the next several years. If it makes $500 million in 2 months, then they're going to be set for doing that. If it makes $50 million in 2 months, then they're going to be doing exactly what they did this year, which is not putting out a lot of content, pushing a whole bunch of ships that probably don't necessarily need to be made, and keeping things pretty close to the chest. Look at KCD 2 sales, another niche game, and they sold over 4 million. Yeah, that's kind of... I was thinking about comparing to Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. I just didn't know... Because it went a little viral with its launch. I didn't know if it had gone above and beyond what Squadron could do. I do think that this is the kind of game that would appeal to more people than Squadron 42. Just because it's a fantasy RPG. But I am also of the mindset that Squadron 42 could be one of the best games of this generation if they do the gameplay and writing well. presentation-wise, graphics-wise, atmosphere, and the way it sets up. I was watching some Halo 3 cinematics earlier today. I was, because I was looking for footage for the video I put out today, and I realized that like Halo hit this really particular spot of cinematic sci-fi game that had just the right amount of like character development and action to feel like an extended movie. And that's what Squadron feels like to me. And I think that's why some people have gone into it and been like, I get the Halo feel from this. Kai Zamet, when he did his reaction, he's like, yeah, I can feel Halo. It can feel kind of like Combat Evolved again. Taryn, thank you for the 100 bits, dude. I was just talking about getting some pizza today, and you might be making that happen. Let's start the week off by topping off the Pizza Bit Fund biddies. I appreciate you. You guys know Taryn has been funding the Pizza Fund since we've been in Turkey. Unfortunately, Turkey has skyrocketed in inflation, so the Pizza Fund gets drained. But we just recently reached 40 liras to the dollar here in Turkey. 40 liras to the dollar. When I first moved here back in 2019, it was like 5.5 liras to the dollar. It went from 1/5 value to the dollar to 1/40th in the time I've lived here. It's ridiculous. And I always tell people when like I go back to the States and people are complaining about inflation, I'm like, I'd like to show you something. The phones here cost as much as the cars used to. It's really dumb. Not to get political, but like, you know, that's what happens when your president thinks lower interest rates will lower inflation. How many copies has Dune sold so far? That's a good question. Probably a freaking ton. Dune Awakening sales figures. Over 1 million in 2 weeks. It's been much longer than 2 weeks at this point. They're probably like 1.5 million by now. Not as high. Okay, so as an MMO, understandable that it wouldn't be as high or as exploding as Kingdom Come Deliverance. Still great numbers though, I think, for what they were expecting. Did CIG ever mention that they have problems with the money? You can't remember. They didn't call them problems, but they did definitely acknowledge that they need to take more money from Star Citizen to get Squadron developed. This game has raised $800 million, but will it ever come out? I'm asking the same questions. Folks know what to expect with KCDC2, KDC2, because of KDC. You can see 42 succeeding as long as it's marginally better than comparable FPS games. That's a good point. If they can hit that sci-fi FPS feeling, then it, like, there's a lot of people who want a sci-fi FPS game. Has Mrs. Tomato made pizza yet? Since we got to Turkey? Not yet. Yeah, I'm glad I'm making dollars too. Just had meat tenderizer. Welcome to Whose Line Is It Anyways, where everything's made up and the points don't matter. I miss that show. Biggest concern with Squadron is how not polished FPS combat feels right now. Examples: the buggy interactions with weapon switching and looting, the character getting stuck in the environment very easily. I see this as the biggest hurdle of enticing casual gamers as well. These are the kinds of things that they definitely, like, I would assume are the focus of...
34 salute, Spasset 34 toes, Spasset 34 gang.
Spasset 34 toes. These are the kinds of things I think would be important to get figured out during the polishing phase. Holston Coop, dude. Hey, man. What's up, gang? Good to see you, buddy. How are you? I heard you were linking up with Grig. Thank you for subbing. And can we just get a quick, a couple claps? Freaking Holston Coop over here. In here since we basically started. One of the OGs. Holston Coop has been a friend, a part of the community, a subscriber for five years, I think. Gotten to meet in person, gotten to chat, hang out in game. Good times, dude. I was just talking to AAK. He went to Quantum Vegas. I saw somebody mention that. Heard it went well. Really, really freaking glad it went well because I'm hoping we can go next year. And it's so nice to like, he got to meet up with a couple other folks over there and they took pictures together. And Spider was there, Anansi. Got to meet up with AAK as well. I'm not sure if you're in chat. But it's cool to see members of the community meeting up. At the end of the day, everybody needs community. One of the things that I think has like absolutely wrecked America over the last however long is kind of a lack of community. There's the whole conversation about third places. We lost those. Movies, malls, whatever they might be. And then there's a conversation about like things for a country to rally around. I come here to Turkey, and obviously Turkey has there plenty of things that they can rally around. And in America, it's kind of hard to find that for the whole crew, the whole group. People have different things. They have religion, they have finances, they have ethnicity, they have location. And at the end of the day, the best thing is just having community that even if you disagree with each other, everybody's well-being is the focus. And I feel like that's part of what we see happen when at the lower end of the spectrum, you get like gaming communities, you get gardening or cooking communities, like groups of people who rally around something they're interested in and create friend groups out of that. And then on the extreme end of the spectrum, you get full-on cults that are like doing really messed up stuff. But the overall motivation for all of those groups is still just like having community, having people who understand you, who are into the same things, who you can talk to and vibe with. And man, oh man, we need more of that with less attacking each other constantly within the communities, like just chilling with differences, you know? So I appreciate everybody who comes into the garden and makes new friendships, meets new people, learns new ways of living and stuff. It's good to see. It's literally f***ing heartwarming. That is the most emotion you'll ever hear out of me. You got it? You went with Grig around the gorge of Mount Hood. Good time, I hope. Sao Paulo Gaming. Hello, Hamburg. Social networks being an important part of long-term health, which is hard when I'm so antisocial. maybe you join a social network of antisocialness. Like who can leave messages on red the best? Or, hey man, I saw you put me on red a few days ago. I appreciate you. I got you on red too. Oh. All right, how about we start talking about interesting things? I know you guys came for the news and the ships and the stuff. Holston, I see you on YouTube as well as an onion, though. Thank you, man. Appreciate you. Thanks for the support on YouTube, dude. Is the Discord called The Garden? Haven't heard of your org much. That's okay. The Discord is called The Garden. And yeah, you might not have heard of the org. Stay around, though. You'd be playing. There's plenty of them in the chat here. United States founding was never about community. It was about power and control. I mean, it was about getting away from power, right? Just kind of the experiment didn't really continue along that trajectory. Weeds in the garden can be good if we get along. Gotta have some weed in the garden. You want to try, but you're from Germany and your English isn't the yellow from the egg like we said it in Germany. Hey man, no problem. We've got plenty of people on our Discord who don't speak English as a first language, who don't speak very well. Even if you join our org, you don't necessarily have to be active in voice chat. Just listen and be able to respond. I don't know of any new info from Quantum Vegas. I would suggest if you wanted to get new info, hit up the Astropub. He helped with hosting it. He was there live. And I know he is planning on doing a talk. I don't know if he already did it or if he's doing it today or tomorrow. But I would hit him up. I have been disconnected from the event. But I'm glad it went well. All right, folks, let's talk about the RSI Arrastra. Let's see.
Kind of end game. So the Arrastra. So the RSI Arrastra, that's the kind of
okay
together, and then
cool. RSI has a mining ship. They actually have two mining ships. They have the Orion, and they also have the Arrastra. We're going to go ahead and discount the Orion for now because it's gigantic and it's nowhere near being made. But the Arrastra was introduced a couple of years ago as a kind of mid to large size mining ship from RSI, focused on multi-crew gameplay with some interesting design ideas. Today I'm going to take you through the Arrastra's Inside Star Citizen, the introduction to the ship, what the heck it's supposed to bring to the game, and why people like it. Because honestly, I feel like this ship is kind of forgotten. It doesn't get any real mentions. It never really shows up in any sort of marketing material, probably for good reason. It's still just a concept, and we don't know when this thing might be coming to the game. I personally don't think they should bring it in until mining takes a step forward and becomes a little more complex. But it's CIG. Who knows what happens? Either way, here is a look at the RSI Arrastra at its introduction.
at the top of the scale, we've got the Orion. That's the kind of end game of mining. And we saw this gap between the two. So the RSI Arrastra is the ship that fills that gap. So the Arrastra kind of combines the core visual elements that we've kind of developed over the years of RSI. It still has that definite triangular arrowhead shape to it, so it still feels at home within the RSI family. One of the things we struggled with a little bit at the beginning when concepting it was we didn't want it to feel too sleek. It really needs to feel like it had a functional purpose, and that really led us down exposing a lot more of the industrial elements. We've built on the idea of RSI layering in their ships to kind of really expose the core framework of the ship down the central kind of columns. It also has a much more...
You know what would have been interesting, seeing how this thing is focused so much on mining, would have been if they tried to make this like a smaller Odyssey, a sort of self-contained long-distance exploration ship, but it could also do the refining. I think the Odyssey can only refine gases. It would have been awesome if this could do that long-distance refining while also being self-sustaining. I think it might have enough to be considered self-sustaining. Actually, now that I think of it, this ship does have the kitchen. It's got the mining. I think it has a refinery in there. Turrets, beds. Yeah, it's actually might be self-sustaining. Let's see.
Comfortable habitation for the crew to live on. It's got plenty of utility on board for day-to-day life, as well as a place to actually land additional vehicles in the back.
It has everything you need to spend a large amount of time away from dock, away from station. It's got an onboard refinery. It's got a large amount of ore storage, as well as onboard cargo. It's a kind of big, serious mining ship, and it allows for a crew of up to 5 to kind of go out and really kind of step into that professional level mining outfit without requiring, you know, a big capital ship.
We have multiple stations for different people to actually mine at the same time as each other.
They're all sat together in a very RSI.
Something I think is worth pointing out here is that it does say these are concept models on the screen, but if you look at some of the older concepts they used to make, they would basically just be pictures. They didn't used to show the overall build of the ship with you can tell this is kind of styled out to actually make sense. And one of the problems they used to have in Star Citizen was they would make the ships, they would build the picture, and then they would design the ship based on the picture, but then the ship would end up in the game and it would be completely different in terms of metrics because they realized, oh, you need this much size for this this component, or you need that much space for this hallway, and things would shift around. That's why we get ships like the Mercury Star Runner, which don't fit the concept image that they were first introduced with. So at one point, maybe 4 or 5 years ago, they started to actually get these designed, and they had some of the teams that would step in later in the process join during the concepting phase so that they could then get the whole thing figured out beforehand. And then by the time they got around to the final art and stuff, the people who were working on final art were there from the beginning, and they know this is how it's supposed to be. And it leads to less ships being completely different from their concepts, which is good on their part, but it can be a little misleading because you see something like this and you're like, oh, how much they've modeled. Oh boy, this must be a year away. 3 years later.
Like bridge section. The remote turrets that are on the Arrastra all have some level of transformation in terms of their location. The two at the front can slide backwards and forwards along, so you don't require the pilot to have to go left a bit, go right a bit.
But then we also have a large one in the center, which can descend through the middle of the ships.
Can actually transform down through the ship and out the bottom to cover the underside. So really you can mine in 360 degrees with this ship.
That is pretty cool.
And as it cuts through the ship, you can actually see the turret as it travels from one side to the other.
And then additional crew members can help either position the ship if they want to change location or deal with the mined goods at the rear of the ship in the cargo bay. But the ship can also hold ground mining vehicles. If you are planet side, some of those crew members could take mining vehicles that you've stored aboard out and do some surface mining whilst the ship hangs around nearby to tackle some ground mining rocks.
See, okay, when you say stuff like this is where I think CIG has a big hole that they need to fill in their mining gameplay. Ground mining by ship is, I don't think, great. I think that there needs to be mining into ground deposits rather than into rocks on the ground. This ship, especially with the laser that can like translate through the bottom of the ship, this is the kind of ship that should be able to land on the ground and then stick a laser down into a borehole and mine in the planet itself. That would make so much sense for me if they had not only these bays for the rocks to be in here, because then the rocks could go off board like he just said. They can head off the ship, go out and do some mining of the nearby rocks while the Arrastra sits there and mines the main deposit underground, and then they can all refine together on the ship. But the way that this is currently modeled with Star Citizen's mining, basically you would land with your Arrastra, mine one rock, maybe two rocks, maybe a couple rocks, and then you would have to lift the ship up and move somewhere else. It doesn't make sense for a ship like this. The fuel costs, the powering on and off, all that kind of stuff, it just wouldn't be worth it. So that's why I look at something like this and I'm like, you guys are going to have to update mining. We're going to have to make some progress here before this ship comes out. And for that reason, I don't see it coming out anytime soon. I think if they did release it soon, it would be an injustice to the potential that it has. Doesn't this ship make them all kind of useless? Doesn't it make other mining ships useless? Currently, yeah. It would right now. But by the time this ship comes out and we're considering the amount of power and heat and wear and tear and the problems that your ship might come up with when you're mining with 4 people at a time and the crew size that you might need for that, the signature that you have here, how likely this is to get attacked by pirates, VTOL capabilities, all that kind of stuff would be considered in a game that actually has all of its features existing. So it might make the mole seem less usable now, but given the way that they want this game to work, there's going to be reasons for the mole to exist still. These videos look like the development of the Arrastra is so far ahead, makes you wonder why it isn't done yet. Exactly. Mole and Prospector will always have use for smaller mining. Yeah, the Prospector is definitely always going to be a winner. Good to see you, PK. How are you today? Cost of running large ships is entirely too trivial in the game right now. Amen. Amen. The amount of work, though, You know, playing a more simplified MMO experience like Dune just makes me realize how much work it takes just to do this part of the game. Like Star Citizen is trying to make so many different game loops be so deep. And then they have ships that depend on them. And those ships need to be unique to some extent. It's a lot. Shall we continue though?
Surface mining whilst the ship hangs around nearby to tackle some ground mining rocks. So this ship is really perfectly placed for people who want to go mining but don't quite know what they're going to encounter along the way. They are equipped to tackle anything on the surface, anything on space.
One of the benefits of concepting the Arrastra now is that we know a lot more about our game, a lot more about how mining works and kind of features in the game. That gives us a much better understanding of what's important for a mining ship. And that's one of the things that we'll take on to when we kind of deliver the Orion in the future.
So this is a great example of how development on some ships improves and expedites others. Compared to the Orion, this bridges the gap in a few nice ways. It leverages all the existing mining loops and mechanics that we have in-game at the moment, whereas the Orion is going to be solely mining in space. It is a big ship designed for sitting out.
The Orion's freaking huge. It's so stupidly big. Hold on, let me see if I can find. There's a really funny video clip that shows how much the Orion has grown. Shout out to Starchives, folks. Starchives.org, great place to find past information on Star Citizen. You can support the creator down below. Appreciate his work. Let's see, is this it?
Manufacture and the styling of that.
That is not it. It's an older video. You need to use a different denoiser. You have a suggestion, Quebec? Always open to suggestions. RSI?
Just because you get the ability.
Yeah, here we go. Check this out. This is crazy.
Cubes on the back, the cargo pods. You can say like.
This is very indicative of just how much they had to change the size of their ships because the concepts didn't match what the ship was meant for before.
This cube's for iron, this cube's for gold, and it will do that for you. So you can just happily let it go once you've set it up how you want.
So because it all comes in through the front, through the mining laser, there's a central corridor chute that runs through the entire ship. So that's sort of defined this hexagonal shape.
Still too quiet? 200%.
That builds up all the walls. So in each of the rooms, you themselves.
Room around because the crew or anything, so we had to scale it up.
Check this out.
Unique about this ship.
There's not much room around for the crew or anything, so we had to scale it up to fit all that in. Which is also good because in the original scale, it was a bit too small for the final mining ship you would get. So it would be a bit disappointing to get it. Because originally it was only half the length of the Idris. You would like your absolute final, most expensive.
Look at how much freaking bigger they made this ship, dude. Like they're compensating. Somebody told them, nah, man. You loser, you can't mine nothing. And they were like, oh yeah? Look how big I am now.
Mining ship to be a thing of like, oh, it's massive and could do loads of stuff. So we've scaled it up pretty much 100% bigger than it was, just to be able to fit all the stuff in and for it to be impressive.
It's very much industrial, so the center section is going to be quite open.
Dude, that's ridiculous. That's like literally, he said 100% increase.
So
it looks like more.
Is going to be
This looks like a solid, like 120% size increase. It's crazy. And this was back in, I think, 2017. 2017. Oh my God, the Orion's going to grow.
In deep space, mining big asteroids, it won't be capable of going down to planet size and mining on there.
What we kind of learned from the Orion is that a lot of our RSI ships feel very, very aggressive. They feel very military and fast. And if you think of like a big industrial mining ship, the Orion is kind of the opposite to that. It's this huge kind of bulky ship that is very purpose-built. And what we wanted to do with the Arrastra is take the lessons that we'd learned from that and combine that with some of the more modern RSI art styles and manufacturing techniques.
The Arrastra is the sort of all-in-one mining ship. You've started hand mining at the very start. You've progressed to, say, a rock as the next step, then a prospector, then a mole. This is the big step that lets you do a bit of everything. You can mine, you can refine, you can transport. And then if you want to go even deeper into that, then you go off to the Orion at the end.
Yeah, I mean, that honestly, it mines, it refines, it transports. It sounds like you could just work and live from that ship for a long amount of time. Good to keep in mind, though, that the there's a lot that they could do with mining. Right now, we're still at a very, not a very basic level. I think they've done a lot of what they would like with mining. The dynamics of heating up the inside of the rock to make it crack, probably the most important part. But if you look at the jobs that they used to have that were included in mining a long time ago, they were talking about the pilot, obviously, the scan operator, which would be required to do more detailed scans of the asteroids, the beam operator, which we already have, obviously, somebody who would detect reactions within the rock. So this would tell you basically how stable or unstable the rock is. That's kind of included in beam operator. Laser seismometer shows each individual tremor within an asteroid, as well as the superposition in the various waves, which I guess is technically, maybe that's the stability of it. Oh, okay. This is the resistance reading. This is the instability reading. But then you have the materials processor. I guess this tells you what is inside of the rock. Cargo operator, we know of that. Refinery operator, we don't know really of what that would be. But all of these things can be, I think, more split up and specialized for the Orion and the Arrastra. And honestly, I think they kind of have to. If the Arrastra is just a bigger mole, then we're lost. If the Orion is just a bigger Arrastra, then we're more lost. And this is one of the biggest questions I have looking at where Star Citizen 1.0 is, where Star Citizen's development is, and what it feels like their goals are right now. I don't really see an in-depth mining model that's in-depth enough to validate the Orion at this moment by 1.0 based off of what they're saying. And what I hope is that at some point in the next year, we do hear about what I'm probably going to call, this doesn't fit with CIG's nomenclature, but I would genuinely call it T2 mining. They've gotten to T2 mining. They've updated mining several times throughout the years, but in terms of a tier 2 kind of style of mining, I'm thinking industrial level, like a solid step up from your small scale enterprise who's just mining stuff to take it somewhere to somebody who is running an industrial endeavor of getting thousands of tons of material and transporting it somewhere else or putting it on a ship to send somewhere else. They got to make that worth it. These can't just be supersized, smaller mining ships. So I hope that they do talk about that some point soon. But there's your look at the Arrastra and I guess a little bit of the Orion. Cheers. Abdi, good to see you, my dude. How are you doing, my friend? Have you guys been watching Abdi? Are there any mods in the chat? Can we get a shout out for Abdi on Twitch? Twitch. Oh yeah, there are mods in the chat. Hey, you. Can we get a shout out for Abdi? He's playing Alien Isolation right now, and I haven't been able to catch it myself, but such a fun game to watch. Very difficult to play because I'm a wimp and I'm not good at scary games. Every time you have no music running and you speak, your background noise is a bit too loud. It's noisy. You can hear it at best in your videos, but I don't know what to do against it. Wait, what? In my videos? Or in the stream? Right now you can hear the background noise because I have a fan running. If I'm recording a video, I don't have any fans on though. Are you saying you can hear background noise in the videos? If you guys have suggestions, everybody's telling me that I need to quiet the background noise. I could use the suggestion for that. It's just a fan in the background might be a little bit loud. But all I've got is my Rode software. I got a noise gate. I got a compressor. I got a de-esser. I got a high pass filter. I got an equalizer. I don't really have a denoiser. I die a lot in Alien Isolation. The audio sounds perfect to you. It's... yeah, you'd probably hear it in headphones. I mean, I can just turn the fan off, but then you guys are going to watch me pouring down on the mic. RTX voice is good. I unfortunately do not have an RTX card for this computer. Might have been stream record. Stream recording's audio is a bit more messy. Maybe OBS will do something. Noise suppression. Let's see. Okay, I've put a noise suppressor. Does that help? I'm talking to see if it helps at all, but I put that on my microphone. Maybe that'll do something. Hear Mrs. T loading up the Nerf gun. Mrs. T actually, her cousin's in town, so she's hosting her right now. Why you guys haven't been blessed with her presence in chat. Abdi, the way you say that makes it sound like the Discord has a bunch of background noise. Well, hopefully that helped the sound. I think I can hear better feedback in my own ears, but I can't tell for sure. Either way, thank you for letting me know if, if the sound's a little off. I appreciate it. We don't get central air out here. Can't wait to get back to the US. Oh, I see. I get you, Abdi. How have you been, dude? Okay. Oh, looks like we're going to talk about a little bit of more spaceship stuff. Let me pull up some pages here. Terrapin. Medical. Misk Fortune. Saber Firebird. Anvil Asgard. RSI Meteor. Okay. What do all of these ships have in common, folks? I know you know it. Freelancer Max. I mean, I wouldn't say power creep. I don't think you can apply power creep to the Terrapin Medic. Does this even have guns? Does it? It does! Look at that, it's got 2 size 2s. Oh no, it's got 2 size 1s. I love that the freaking medical ships have their own look maxing. They're such Gen Z ships. Working and lurking, Abdi. Toes. Yeah. Badians. So, Hey, Pank. Good to see you, friend. No gameplay. God dang, man. So, we've got several ships here. The Terrapin Medic, the Misk Fortune, the Saber Firebird, Anvil Asgard, the RSI Meteor, and the Freelancer Max. All of these are variants, and they all change their ship in some way to fit a new style of gameplay. But of these, I would say that probably the Asgard and the Meteor are the most different from the ones they come from. The Firebird is like the Peregrine, the Fortune is like a Prospector, or the Firebird's like a Raven. Actually changes the design a decent amount, but I would say not as much as the other two. The Fortune just kind of takes off the mining bags really from the Prospector. And then the Terrapin Medical, just like, it's like new paint, basically. So they're all different levels of variation from their original ship they come from, but they've all been released this year except for the Freelancer Max. Now these have all been released this year with their own sales pages, their own full ISC episodes, like, and I'm talking basically an entire trailer behind the ship's episodes. So we got a 5-minute one for the Meteor, a 4-minute one for the, oh yeah, it's another one. Wait for it. There we go. There's another one. We had one more in here, the Prowler Utility. Okay. Now we can continue. Prowler Utility got one. Anvil Asgard got one. Guardian MX got one. The Fortune got one. Actually, it looks like the Terrapin Medical, that was last year, huh? So you can see that most of them are getting these full-on trailers. They're getting sales pages. They're getting pretty large amounts of big deals made out of them. But if you go back to the Freelancer Max, which is kind of the same, you don't see the same thing. So when you look at like the Asgard, I think is a really good example or a good comparison to the Freelancer Max. The Asgard had 180 SCU. Let me pull up the Anvil Valkyrie and the Hesperia Prowler. You can see kind of the parallels here. So the Anvil Valkyrie had 90 SCU. The Asgard got 180. They doubled it. Why did I pull up the freaking Prowler? I meant the Freelancer. My bad. The Misk Freelancer has 66 SCU of cargo. The Max has 120. They basically doubled it. The Freelancer Max has a notably different body from the Freelancer. An extra thruster on there, a wider body, and I don't think they take the turret out. It's mostly the same, but it still has a different chassis overall. The Valkyrie has its own design. And you can see the Asgard is mostly like it as well. They added a little extra kind of wing with a thruster back here. Changed up the design a little bit, but mostly looks the same. So you got this sort of parallel development between the Freelancer and the Freelancer Max and the Valkyrie and the Asgard. But the Asgard gets a much different introduction. It got the ISC. It got, the whole sort of new ship vibe. And so I think that's kind of an interesting discrepancy that's coming up with these newer variants. It's obvious that CIG is trying to make a bigger deal out of variants than they used to. And I think that, I actually wonder if they should have done that from the beginning. If variants should have always been something that they kind of doubled down on more than trying to make new ship models and new ship models and drawing a blank. Modularity. There it is. If they had just done this instead of modularity, I wonder if it would have been much more accepted at this point. But I do feel like people are really starting to grow accustomed to the fact that like CIG is taking these ships and making something slightly different out of them and making a bigger deal out of them than they did with these other ships. I don't really think it's that big of a problem, but I do think it could be. I think this could definitely continue to unfold into something that adds more bloat to the game than it needs to. But ultimately, I think this is most interesting because most people probably would have called this a Mark II. And CIG is very clear on the whole point of having Mark IIs. The Hornet was a special case because they wanted to make sure that the Hornet was in the fiction a ship that had been succeeded by a Mark II version. And that was worked in with Squadron 42. They announced it years and years ago that it was going to happen. But then we see these other ships coming in and they have different names. And I wonder to myself, if they had brought this in and called it Valkyrie Mark II, would people be more or less unhappy about the way that they're doing these variants? I don't know. Don't know why people get upset if a new ship doesn't tickle their fancy. Do they want to keep changing their favorite ship? Honestly, yeah, I think some people do. Some people just want to constantly look for a new favorite ship. It's like the industry of gaming. People find a game that they really like, but then within 2 weeks, they're looking for another game that will distract them from that. Short attention spans and all that jazz. I don't think that's everybody's thing. I think people just don't actually have their favorite ship and they're just latching onto whatever ship gets close enough. And they're just waiting for the perfect ship to come along. That's where I'm at. The C1 is as close as you've gotten so far. I wouldn't say it's like the perfect ship. I do think, though, that there's more anger towards specifically the whole Mark II thing than anything else, but towards variants overall. I think CIG is making some mistakes in the way that they're introducing these variants and picking some weird applications for them. The Meteor has people frustrated. But I think CIG at the end of the day is the ones that are in control of making these things work. And every time they release another ship, it gets a little bit harder to make it work. So I do wonder if, or when, they will be slowing down on releasing these new variants that are not Mark IIs, but are new ships based on old chassis with slightly different differences that do sometimes fix some of the problems with the original model. The one saving grace, they're updating the old ships when they update the new one. And that's important, because as soon as they start leaving them behind the old ships, we've got a real problem on our hands. Mark II ship should be updated, but still serving the same purpose. Asgard doesn't fit same purpose as Valkyrie. You're not wrong. A Mark II ship should be basically the same kind of ship. I know people are changing up their Valkyrie to use the Asgard for the same thing, though. But you are right about that. The Terrapin Medical wouldn't be a Mark II to the Terrapin because it's not doing the same thing as the Terrapin. The Fortune wouldn't be a Mark II to the Prospector because it's not doing the same thing as a Prospector. The Firebird, not the same as the Raven. Prowler Utility, not the same as the Prowler. Meteor, not the same as the Mantis. Valkyrie, mostly not the same as the Asgard. And the Freelancer, not the same as the Freelancer Max. They are changing the needs of these ships. So yeah, you are right. These aren't necessarily Mark IIs. They're not set up to be Mark IIs. But they are variants, and they're being treated differently from how variants were. And I do wonder, will these be... is this how they're always going to do variants from now on? Will they always have this whole... we're going to release one ship instead of a series of ships, and then we're going to slowly release variants of that ship that actually do different things, but release almost as new ships? Because they could have dragged out the 300i series, they could have dragged out the Reliant series, the Freelancer series, the Cutlass series, all these different ships with variants. And I'm just like, is this a new way of doing it? And should we expect this for every ship from now on? Either way, that's just a kind of a look at like the variants, what's happening with these variants, why these are or are not Mark IIs. I think a good point was that they're not made for the same things, and how often they're happening, because they're starting to really bug people. I think they give them a lot of ability to onboard devs, a lot of ability to make sales without a absolute ton of effort, but it can dilute what people are viewing as the overall ship pool that you can choose from. They're almost at 200 ships, guys. 200 freaking ships. All fully detailed and different. Well, not fully different. That's a lot. They got a lot of work on their hands with this kind of model. And if they keep doing this every month, then by the end of next year, by the middle of 2027, I think we'll be at 200. We shall see. How many released is actually a good question. 176 ships are released. Easiest way to check that out is my man Colonial Movers. He publishes a ship list every time they release a new ship. So they've got 213 ships in total announced, 173 drivable/flyable, probably 176 now. So yeah, by the end of next year, they'll probably be at like 188. And by the end of the following year, they'll be closing in on 200. Yeah, about 40 on the backlog. That's not terrible. Especially when you look at this and you see how much of that is actually just on the larger side of ships. Like 15 of those are large ships, and then another 8 of those are capital ships. So 22 of those ships, 23 of those ships are large or capital ships. Besides that, most of the small ships, snubs, they could do better with the vehicles. Like most of those have been added in, but they've got their work cut out for them. And I think the frustration about this is only going to build as more and more people come into this game not really caring about, like, gotta get this game made, we gotta stick together and hold the line. These people just want a fucking game. They just want to fly their spaceships. And I think we can see that sentiment creeping in more and more as the player base diversifies, gets more casual entrants, and just generally expands into people who aren't like tied at the hip to a space MMO. So we'll see how they do. But that's a look at kind of what they're doing in terms of variants, Mark IIs, whatever you want to call them. You're clearly using new versions to go back and update the OG ships. Yeah, and that helps. It helps. It's a good move that they can use this opportunity to go back and update the old ships they're based on. But they need to keep doing that. That's the scary part. It's like you can use the Asgard releasing as a chance to update the Valkyrie, but in 6 years, you will still have to both update the Asgard and then do work and update the Valkyrie as well. And will you do that? Or is that just something that's happening right now? MSR variant would just be a blockade runner better? No, I think they could make an MSR variant that was based on probably cargo hauler. A pure cargo hauler variant meant to compete with like Asgard, maybe vehicle cargo hauler. I don't know. Either way, that's a touch on variants. You rock. You know that? Alan! Hey, my friend! Space Tomato, Sabakan playing pool on ships when? Whenever they get pool working. Thank you for the super chat, Alan. How you doing this week? The old billiards. Aurora rework when? I'm not a freaking Magic 8-ball. I can't tell you that one. Perseus is not considered a capital. Perseus is actually much smaller than it looks.
turret on the top.
It's about the size of a hammerhead. I could find one that shows the scale. None of these pictures really show the scale all that well. But you can see it basically right here. It's about the size of a hammerhead, just judging by like how close the hulls are.
Formidable ship.
So definitely a large ship. Speaking of variants, something you always wanted to ask. What is that thing? Don't worry about it, Lurch. I don't even know why it's still there. It's a relic from the past. Perseus at Sitcon. Perseus at Sitcon. Let's look at this the ship spreadsheet. Ship sheet. I don't even know what I call it. Space Tomato Ship Tracking Guide or something. Ship Space Tomato Development Sheet. Oh, I'm on the wrong Chrome. I'm just dumb. Space Tomato Ship. There we go. Ship Tracking Sheet. The Perseus, we currently have expected to be, November 2025 is what we have. Honestly, though, we don't really know. The last update we got was in July, so that was the June monthly report. Approaching gray box gate review. Gray box in June. Ooh. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what they say about the work done on it in July. Because that's actually kind of getting close. They're in gray box in June. We have July, August, September, October, November. 5 months. They're probably going to want to focus so much more on this over the next 5 months if they do want it out. So we'll see. Did he say Perseus at CitizenCon? Not that I know of. Maybe I forgot though. Toes. Gunslinger! Hi. He just said, hi. Hey, buddy. How you doing today? Thank you for your 18 months subbed up, supporting the channel, making this possible, keeping the ship speculation and the copium flowing into my deep, dark, scarred lungs. 13 years of space game drug dust going into my lungs, pushing me onward, pushing me forwards towards a potential beta release. The beta. Somebody asked me the other day, hey, is Star Citizen still in beta? A little tear went down my cheek. Tyrus. Thank you for that, Basil. The Perseus is smaller than the Hammerhead. Okay. Wow. That's freaking crazy, dude. It's so nuts how much that ship does not look smaller than a Hammerhead. Post 1.0, you can foresee CIG retiring a ton of ships from being for sale, so they will become rare ships that people can show off. CIG will continue to do this, release new models and styles, and retire old ships. Retiring old ships, though, makes me feel like those ships won't be supported. It's one thing to retire a car in real life and be like, oh, you guys have to keep those running. And you as a person is like, okay, I'll just get this hose or this belt, or I'll replace this chair or this upholstery or maybe this radiator coil. Like, you can do that with cars in real life. But if they start retiring ships in Star Citizen and their overall goal with doing that is to make them sound more unique, I would also expect them to support them, because we can't do that. We can't just replace parts like you can in real life. If they change something and the prospector has a problem with the mining and the fortune is fine with, or the fortune has a problem with salvage and they update the fortune but it doesn't hit the prospector or something, that would suck. Has there been any progress on drones? No, they haven't said anything. Ironclad is only just starting to be worked on.
Turret on the top and the bottom. Turret on the top and the bottom.
Oh, I'm on the wrong thing. Ironclad. Blocking out rooms in May. Oh, I did not get the last update from that monthly report. Hold on. The June monthly report. Will Apollo release without drones 100%? I don't think so. I think that would be one of the worst decisions they've made when releasing a ship, would be to release the Apollo without drones. God, I would hope it. I would hate it if they did that. Ironclad. Some areas receive layout alterations to improve traversal alongside refinement to the modular Drake kit. So, yeah, they literally are just like, some people are working on it. But thank you for reminding me of that. Let's update our sheet here. Updating layout in June. More people on the job. They added a couple devs to the job in June. Keep an eye on that. If the Ironclad is in white box and the Perseus is in gray box, much more likely we'll see the Perseus by the end of the year. The Ironclad might actually be a next year ship. I thought it was going to be up this year. Definitely thought they were going to try and hype it for this year, but it's starting to look more and more like next year. Your guess is that drones will function like remote controlled turrets, just also moving. It's supposed to be like, as a drone pilot, you are completely occupied with running the drone, so you can't like set it to do something and go do something else. Don't know if that's changed though. Kimchi, good to see you. Been a little while. How have you been? Laughed coming into the stream with the words 13 years. Apollo is Lot 0 in June. If drones aren't ready, are you suggesting they should hold the ship hostage until drones are ready in 20 never? Now, Lady Space Patrol, because you're asking that, I'm going to say no. Because I think if I muttered the words, delay the Apollo, you might single-handedly crash this whole stream. I know you are hyped for the Apollo. I don't want to say that they should hold it back. But I think that they would be doing themselves a disservice if they released it without the stuff that like defined it. I don't want to see them release it and then have to redo something with it in a year or two. That would be so dumb. The water level on SNES Donkey Kong Country. I used to play that in preschool, dude. Literally remember going into the preschool room and we had a Super Nintendo with the Donkey Kong game on it. With the barrels, right? The rolling barrels. I guess what the heck? I can't be like, oh yeah, Donkey Kong game with rolling barrels. Yeah, they all have fucking barrels, dude. What's the difference between white and gray box? White box is more about defining the general shape of the ship. The, you know, those basic fundamentals, the length, the height, the width, how many rooms, where are the hallways, all those kinds of things, sort of blocking them out in the ship, in the engine. Gray box would be then when they go in and they actually define the specific distances. This is 2 inches from this, or meters, because, you know, science. This door has to slide into this wall in this way, so we have to make sure there's nothing in the wall over here so that this door can move. This MFD will be right here compared to the seat. The gray box is where things get a lot more detailed. I can point you towards a video about this. How Star Citizen ships are made. If you search that, I believe my video will pop up. Yes. I've done 2 of these videos. One of them was much older. And in the farmhouse. This one, though, I'll drop the link for you in the chat. This goes through the whole process, how they make spaceships for Star Citizen. Disappears into the black box. Go catch up via those epic tomato YouTube videos. Well, thank you for watching, Kimchi. Appreciate you. Drones are a requirement for base building tier 1. At one point in time, tier 1 base building was scheduled to release at some point in 2025, but that was before the stability drive. Yeah, Elfwin. You are right about that. Imagine we see base building come in with the Apollo, and we have drones for both applications. It sounds like a fever dream, to be honest. I prefer metric. Metric is much easier for me. Imperial is like, I get it because I grew up on it, but metric makes so much more logical sense. Hey, no problem, Ginger. Happy to have you here in chat, dude. Love seeing your name in the chat. After that is final art. Yep, final art, effects, damage passes, all that jazz. Okay, let's talk about the RSI Meteor. This is going to be a little bit of a different one. I want to hear what your take is in the comments in chat on this ship, because I'm seeing a lot of, I'll just say conversation surrounding this one. And it seems like a lot of it is rather unhappy. Now we've got this post here that kind of summarizes what I think people have been saying in general. 4 size 3 guns. I didn't know if they were size 3 or size 2 when we were watching it. 4 size 3 guns is freaking wild, though. I think that is... I think the Hurricane has 4 size 3s. I want to say Star Citizen Hurricane. I think it's got 2 size 5s and 4 size 3s on a turret. So the Hurricane has, 4 size 3s and 2 size 4s. So this thing actually has more gun power, more firepower than the Hurricane. But with the Hurricane, you actually have to bring somebody else with you to take advantage of all of those guns. So, yeah, the Meteor's got a lot of firepower to it. 4 size 3s, 2 size 5 bespoke cannons, 2 size 3 missile racks, or 4 size 4 missile racks. And who is this? Frank Unit. Thank you for your post, Frank. Who is the ship for? They asked during this. This was kind of not gonna lie. This is a little funny to look back on. The ship is for me. It's for Jared. John Wick. They didn't really lay out exactly what this ship was for. Claiming they made it for Jared themselves and John Wick, a fictitious movie character. Hey, John Wick has some very specific needs. He needs space for a dog. Is CIG now making ships for themselves? Is CIG no longer making ships for their customers? This is the same question. Are single-seat fighters getting more and more weapons? That's a yes. Can we expect a smaller ship than the Ion Inferno with more firepower? I think all of these are yeses. Crusader Inferno. That's a size 8 gun on it. Size 7. I don't think they'll put anything with more firepower on it, but I think they'll give us a ship with like dedicated 5s. Kind of like the one we have now. But this ship is so freaking big, dude. Frank's from your org. Dude is great. Well, we appreciate his post. As an Ion owner, this ship sends a next message than why they stated heavy fighters shouldn't be so OP. Well, one of the weird things, it's not incredibly weird because things do change over time. I'll give them that. Anything can happen in between, what is this? March, Sorry, I always pick the wrong. Anything can happen between what the? How did I get Neil deGrasse Tyson? How in the world did I just pull out the Neil deGrasse Tyson wild card?
Antimatter.
Stop! I love your voice. I love the way you say scientific terms. That's not what we're here for. There we go. So there is a question here. Dude, Neil deGrasse Tyson is in Star Citizen. That would actually be very cool. All right, there is somewhere here where he asks them what they're working on. I don't know where it is though.
So it's just gonna be a little. It's gonna be a starter ship as well. So it's gonna be. You just got the game. Don't want to fight guys because you're a coward or you're lazy, whatever.
Oh no! Why did I? Oh no! How did I manage to accidentally play that part on stream? This is the. This statement has triggered so much more frustration than most of the things I think that have come out of this company. Oh boy. I'm just trying to find the timestamp where they're talking about the things they're working on. It didn't need to be like this. There goes the stream. I am looking for this one. Here we go. Okay. So this was back in March when they were asked kind of what they were working on. Listen to how they describe this ship, and then we will listen to how they describe
It's quite.
this. All right. This is when Elliot says clip that space tomato. This is what he means. It's such a dick move, but you gotta bring up the things that have been said, you know?
No, without my glasses, I can't see crap.
Okay, fair enough. I'm working on a fighter.
On a fighter?
Yes.
A heavy strike fighter?
Yes, sir.
Heavy strike fighter?
And it's based
I bet it is.
on the Mantis.
Based on the RSI Mantis?
Yes.
So taking that beautiful, gorgeous,
Amazing.
sleek
Yes.
silhouette of the Mantis and giving it a new life.
Give it a new life.
New life, because we can't interdict enough yet. And here's July of this year.
The Meteor is, at its core, a medium fighter you can spend your time on, you can live on it. It's got everything you'd need to live out in space.
So it went from a heavy fighter to a medium fighter. Now, I don't know if they misspoke in Star Citizen Live, but I'm almost kind of feeling like it was supposed to be a heavy fighter. And for some reason, maybe like this even could have been a misspeak. No hate on Dan. Dan does great work. Dan has put a lot of great stuff into the game, but maybe they like gave him the wrong thing to say. Maybe they threw out the wrong term. I don't know. And now they just kind of are sticking with it, but it does sound like a heavy fighter. And the ship itself is really large. So besides like the fact that it has these big freaking guns, they are bespoke guns, they are ballistic guns, and they are cannons. And as I said when we were watching this live for the first time, I suck with cannons. I think they're sick. I think they've got a lot of use, but you got to be good with them to hit with them. So I understand making bespoke cannons on a ship to make it the downside of that ship. And I'm excited to see how this thing fights and how it stacks up because of these things. We don't know how it's going to defend. We don't know how it's going to take incoming fire or any of that kind of stuff. So I'm holding off judgment on that. But I do think it's interesting to see this discrepancy out of the description of the ship, because that's also the main problem that people seem to have with the ship, is the way that it is described based on what it is it's bringing into the game, and also the fact that it's just kind of stomping on other things in terms of its weapon size and ship size. It's freaking huge. Let's look at the Ares Ion is 30 meters wide, 27 meters long. These ships are all just really big. The Meteor is... Oh, we don't have the specs for it yet. Do we not even have the specs for it? Guessing it's the same size as the Mantis. That thing is really loud. Shooting the cannon should slow you down. So the Mantis is 30 by 17, so it is smaller than the Ares. This is 30 by 27, 27 in length, 30 in width. That's not that crazy, actually. Let's look at the F8C. (26 in length, 25 in width. It's got a few meters, making it longer. It's not as gigantic as I was feeling compared to these other ships. Still plenty big. Still weird. I think calling it a fighter is a little weird. It feels like when I got the Guardian, I thought of the Guardian as a kind of like a daily driver for somebody who wants to do... Is music a bit loud? Thank you. A daily driver for somebody who wants to do combat in ships and in FPS, and also just like store some stuff. That's what I thought the Guardian was. It felt like it was really well suited for that. The Meteor feels better suited for that. If they had released the Meteor without releasing the Guardian, I would have been like, this is just a traveling mercenary ship, basically. Something that can easily defend itself, but is also focused on getting people to places and allowing them to live. So I'm really hopeful that they can balance it correctly and figure out where it is actually supposed to fit in the game. But the initial reaction is pretty rough. It is rough. Niku responded to this thread, and he said, yes, the Meteor hits hard, but its defenses will offset that raw power. You'll learn more about the RSI Meteor in an upcoming Q&A. Its bespoke size 5 cannons pack a serious punch, but they come at cost. You're locked into ballistics, which means limited ammo and slower fire rates that punish missed shots, especially against smaller, more nimble targets. It's not the most forgiving loadout, and it's not meant to be your death to everything ship. The missing shots against smaller targets is an interesting point. This was a huge topic we talked about in the podcast this week. I had Avenger 1 on. Haven't talked to him in quite a while on the podcast. Wanted to get him on to talk about the flight model, master modes, where things are headed in that regard. He's got divisive views. I know that. I recognize that. But he generally gives me a lot to work with when it comes to discussing this flight model. And one of the things he mentioned was how important it has become to just be able to aim in this game now. Just to hit the nimble targets. That's the most crucial thing in the game, is not necessarily momentum and positioning, but aim. And that's something that they're doubling down on here with the Meteor. He continued, since the weapons are bespoke, you also lose the flexibility to swap in alternatives. It's specialized chip with big highs and clear limitations, built to reward precision and thoughtful target selection. So not only do you need to keep in mind that, yes, this could be your long-range mercenary ship, you're going to have to carry ammo on board with you, which is not really something that we're considering yet, but could make a huge difference between using something like this and a Super Hornet that's all energy weapon loadout. You don't have to carry any ammo with you. This one could require you to use some of that cargo space. Ronan replied to this response mentioning power creep was getting stupid with 4 size 4s or 2 size 5s on heavy fighters and 4 size 3s plus 2 size 4s on mediums. Your stated justifications change nothing. This is a bad ship with a flawed design philosophy and it should not exist. Again, I do wonder if this was considered a heavy ship, and not even a heavy fighter, just a heavy ship, would the problems be as pronounced? This devolves into people talking crap to each other, of course. It is Spectrum after all. But you can kind of get the gist of at least the responses going on here. People are confused. I think that CIG is doing themselves a little bit of a disservice here. That they are advertising the ship and releasing the visuals and like kind of some details of the ship here on this episode of Star Citizen, Inside Star Citizen, but then they're not giving the stats. They're not telling people what the specifics are. Nobody knows how many shields it has or how fast it can go. And it's like, they might just be trying to draw it out a little bit to make it more of a 2-week event, this ship coming out. I do think that they could have just dropped the Q&A the day after they dropped this behind the ships thing. And if we wait a little bit until the Q&A and get some good questions in, maybe we'll be a little bit more clear about where this fits in. Try before you buy. Yeah. Rent everything before you ever try it. Or you ever buy it. They've never had a strong definition of light versus medium versus heavy. Matt, I don't want to hear it. If they tell me that a ship is heavy, I should not be able to lift it myself. Okay? That's a light ship if I can lift it. At least if it's not squats. I got them glutes. With those size energy weapons, it has to be anemic for power. Yeah, it also comes back to how this is balanced when it comes to engineering, power systems, ammo count, all that kind of stuff. And that then brings into the conversation, what is tedium? How much are you guys doing just to make something feel like it has cons and not just all pros? Like, you guys made a great ship. Are you now forcing some cons in there to make it balanced out? Is it actually going to be fun to use if the power is constantly running out? I don't know. We'll come back to this when it's actually in game. But as of right now, the response to it has been mixed for the first few days, which honestly, we're the Star Citizen community. That makes sense. We'll see how it actually flies and where it fits in over the next few weeks. Hopefully they can balance / nerf it into a place where it fits into the game. It only has 8 shots on the firing. Yeah, I saw that. That is a small amount of shots. To be sir. Be sir? To be sure. To be sir. When is it not mixed? Exactly. PK, you sound like a vet. Just wish we could lean more heavily into non-combat ships. I feel you, Jock. That's, you're not alone there. As much as I will say CIG has to do other, they have other things. I made a video about it earlier this month and it did absolutely terribly. But basically the video is talking about how there is more to come. You know, it can feel like they're focusing on a whole bunch of stuff at one point. But it's good to remember that they've got a whole backlog of things that they still need to get to. And while it can suck right now for non-combat people in certain circles doing certain things, it's not, those plans aren't lost. They will circle back around to stuff that people are more interested in who aren't doing combat. Oh, Jay, the ships that I was talking about were specifically ones that had previous versions. When it comes to ships, this game does not lend sandbox. The ships, the one thing we pay a lot of money for, are the most non-sandbox thing of the entire game. No freedom to do whatever, all kinds of restrictions, to the point on some ships Can't even change weapons, all in the name of balance, which constantly changes. I don't think the ships are necessarily supposed to be the sandbox. I think they're just supposed to be tools in the sandbox. If they were the sandbox, I would just say, let us build our own ships, you know, if they wanted to be super creative about it. But I feel like, for the most part, the ships are kind of like, pick your ship and then pick your role within that. And if you want to pick one that's a little more free-feeling, get a utility mount. Or get one with a utility mount. And in that regard, I do agree with you. They used to talk about utility mounts being able to put different tools on them, like mining lasers and tractor beams. Don't know if they're still going with that, though. You saw some of the atrocities people built in Starfield. You're fine with CIG building the ships. You should see what I build, dude, when somebody tells me to build a ship. Things I make don't even get off the ground. All right. Next up, I wanted to talk about CitizenCon. One thing ED did great was allowing us to make any ship be any role you want it to be. Oh yeah, because they all had like utility mounts on them. Yeah, the ships in Star Citizen do not lend a hand to creativity. I'm okay with that. You gotta pick and choose. And I feel like they put so much time into these ships that I already feel like the things that they do to make these ships feel a little more usable in different scenarios is enough to just make balancing an absolute fest. I hope they can handle it as it is. Let's talk about CitizenCon. 3 years ago, believe it or not, CitizenCon was digital. This year, CitizenCon is digital. Without going into too much detail, I'm going to show you what CitizenCon looked like all that time ago and what kind of things we discovered. And maybe we'll take a little bit of a look at what kind of things were announced that we still don't have. But ultimately, I want to set expectations for what to expect at CitizenCon this year. Because already we can see some signs of not good things. Well, I won't say not good things. We see signs of them being more focused on the game than CitizenCon. And we already know that because it's digital, but we can also see that just by how little time it's taking this year. So CitizenCon Direct 2025, mark your calendars. It lands in October 11th. Looking at the details on the Spectrum post, they said, where can I watch? How long will it be? This year's showcase will be shorter than a traditional physical or digital CitizenCon, but it'll be densely packed with exciting content and reveals you won't want to miss. They don't give an exact time, but it's definitely going to be shorter than even a traditional digital CitizenCon. Now, how long is that? 2022, it was 5.5 hours long. And what did we see during that? We saw a explanation of Star Citizen's outlaw-style outposts and space stations. We saw a ship talk, as we always do. We saw a special on engineering, which we're still waiting for. We saw a special on the Lorville art rework, which really was a placeholder. We saw something on master modes, something on underground facilities, on investigations, and on pyro. Now, we don't have quite a few of these things. We don't have engineering. We don't have underground facilities. We don't have investigation missions. During that time, we also saw the Squadron 42. You might be remembering this at this point. I'll click in real quick. You can remember some footage. This is actually the first place we ever saw Quantum Boost, which was in this video.
Of interest will be just points.
Yeah.
But basically, we've done a scan. We've got some points of interest that are, multiple 10Ks away.
And you can see the distance there. It says 13,000 kilometers on the right-hand side. So this is obviously just placeholder UI for the Quantum Boost. Again,
you can just boost over there. And it obviously has this interactive gameplay, which obviously went into...
Yeah, and this, by the way, is that's all programmer work in progress from Yogi on the quantum boost.
Not gonna lie, now that I've seen a lot more quantum boost and the ways that it's developed over time, because it's changed since this, I actually want them to make it so that we can guide quantum boost. It's not just like a straight line, keep it in line with your travel. I want it to work like Super Cruise and Elite Dangerous. I want this to be something that strategically you have to time getting out of quantum boost and stuff, because if they're going to make it have this sense of like you need to control this and we're traveling at 1200 1300 meters per second doing this, I want it to be something we can completely guide as opposed to just keeping on the rails kind of. They say 2 hours in another post. 2.5 hours. Okay. Yeah, I think I remember hearing something like that. Oh, it's not bad that they're spending more time on the game than CitizenCon. Don't get me wrong. Looking at some more of the stuff that was delivered, or at least shown during this is where we saw underground facilities. Been over this a couple times in the last few weeks.
This is how, again, we're going to try and keep verticality as a traversal motif in mind. Now, going from a large corridor set to what we're considering here medium or small. So these are the tertiary networks that will link into the primary traversal route. So these, again, will be continuing the radial motif that we've been seeing, and these would take the player and connect into the main spaces.
I think this is the kind of stuff that is leading to the abandoned underground facilities, not that it's a direct line from here to there. It's not the art we're seeing in these videos. I do think it falls in like the same line of what they're thinking for these ASD facilities in 4.3.
Underground lakes, maybe it's lava, maybe it's acidic. And also if we're describing these locations as maybe some are more abandoned, we could start to showcase how nature slowly started to take over. This also would introduce some pretty cool opportunities. So also,
and that's underground facilities. This was CitizenCon, and as you can see, it really just plays out kind of like an Inside Star Citizen. I think that's probably what we're going to get this year as well, and they'll probably be on the topics that are very close at hand as opposed to all of these, which are more conceptual. So I'm thinking base building, crafting. I would guess that they would do one to try and show what they have planned for star systems next. Like a more substantial version of what they did last year with the Beyond Pyro panel. And I think that would also include maybe some of the plans that they have for Stanton. They need to rework R Corp. They need to add the Air and Halo belt gates. And they need to add factions. But I think like what a lot of people are saying, they have a lot of stuff they don't need to talk about anymore. Most of it's out on the table and still hasn't been delivered. So they're working on that. There's no reason to talk about stuff you've already shared everything about. Yeah, quantum travel can be used without destination, but I'm talking about guiding it as you're flying in quantum boost. They have never specified if that would be an option, and it sounds like it won't. Is 4.3 the CitizenCon patch? It might be the last major patch before CitizenCon comes out, but we'll probably have a 4.3.2 by October, or 4.3.1. Tim the Tree Hugger, good day to you. This was honestly the most exciting part of this CitizenCon for me, because these kinds of missions, it just felt like could really... If this was actually a standardized part of the game, not just as a mission, but as a module that could go into other missions like mercenary missions and stuff like that, I think this would be one of the more interesting parts of the game. But these have basically not been mentioned since this CitizenCon panel 3 years ago. What's up,
Currently
Wobbly?
in the game, the player can feel like a bounty hunter, a mercenary, a person who does deliveries, you know, a cargo hauler. We want to make them feel like a detective as a new route. You know, we're expanding constantly. We're building mining, salvage, and detective is going to be our focus in MFT.
The experience we want to give players with the investigation mission is that they feel like a detective, that they feel like they're collecting evidence that will ultimately answer the question that has been posed to them, and that they're able to kind of search through the evidence and find the red herrings and like choose the right answer.
So what we want is we want to build a mission that requires you to have to think, requires you to have to look around, search your environment in detail, look at each individual clue and make sure you fully understand it before you make your decision as the detective.
And there'll also be red herrings thrown in there, so evidence will really have to be like poured over to be able to determine whether it's actually credible or not.
You guys might remember this kind of gameplay from the Covalix mission, which I think was their template that they could move forward with. I think we were supposed to get a lot more of these in different areas in the game, and something happened, and they didn't work on them because they had to work on something else.
There, and they're all crossed off until one. And if you're smart, you'll go to that location, and should you go to that location and do a little searching, you'll find his body there, and he's been like electrocuted, fixing the final thing on his list. And there's your definitive ending.
That sucks.
Whereas the second pitch, it's more about allowing the player to choose when they're done, like when they think they have solved the mystery. And the way we do this is we scatter evidence around the location and clues that lead you to that evidence. And obviously there can be red herrings in there. You can get your answer up to a credible state, which might still be the wrong answer but you can complete the mission then. Whereas
I love
if you
that.
have carried on digging a little more, maybe found a few more clues and followed them, you would perhaps find an indisputable piece of evidence, like, you know, I did it kind of thing, that would get you like the bonus for the mission. And both pitches had their strengths and weaknesses. The simple pitch, we could see how easy it was to scale, and it involved less complex narrative work. But we ultimately decided to go for the second because we liked the idea of giving the player the agency to decide when they were done.
It's such a cool idea. I would love missions like that, but it also sounds difficult. I don't see how you could do that without creating a system that spawns those kinds of missions dynamically in locations, because requiring the devs to make those handmade every time in all the different locations, I mean, how quickly does somebody get through every investigation in an area, if that's the case? Continuing on with CitizenCon 2022, there was another panel here. Oh, that's 2021. Here we go. Engineering. Got to see a little bit of what engineering was supposed to look like back then. Actually, they did a good job of telling us everything that it was supposed to encompass, which we still haven't heard an updated list for, but we've definitely, it sounds like what we're getting in engineering is going to be a broken down version of all this, so we'll get certain parts over time, not all of it at once, as you know, they do.
Resource management can be broken down into several key elements. Power, energy resources, life support, item maintenance, relay handling, access control, and gravity. So let's start with power, energy, and resources.
The access control is such a big thing. That can make all the difference for this game. If you go in and you can't control certain things on a ship, even if you're in the party, I feel like access control is tied at the hip to ownership. And if they can update the ownership system, we could do a lot more interesting stuff as like groups and orgs and friends. Here's what engineering looked like at that time, though.
Yeah, with the power system, we already can distribute the base energy and base fuel throughout the ship. So we can make sure that each item actually gets the resources they need. Creating your own resource path is basically defining the routes, or the most efficient routes that the energy or the resources have to take throughout your ship.
Is this what you mean by the jump ship kind of gameplay?
We can also demonstrate many aspects of the life support system, including making new players suffocate.
Love that horn in this sound. We're going to have way too much fun with this. We're going to troll each other so much with life support. It's going to get ridiculous.
Fire expulsion.
Halo flashbacks? Honestly, I'm getting flashbacks of just running out of space stations without my helmet on.
Change the temperature in each room.
If everybody's still wearing their flight suit, their space suits all the time. True. That will make a difference, but it also sounds like with Starware, they're getting closer to the point where we won't be doing that. I don't think life support's in V1, no. I really do like that the oxygen, the fire eats oxygen. That's a crazy systemic kind of thing that I hope it's for all fire and not just fire caused by the player.
Venting and filling rooms with atmosphere. And making players suffocate again.
Always making players suffocate. And then this one I think is the most interesting, just showing how you can basically sabotage a ship from inside, which will be cool for like sneaking on board a ship and then taking it out before the rest of your group gets there. Basically just disabling shields from inside. So that's just another look. Like I said, we also got one for master modes. We got one for the ships, outlaw areas, and then we got a look at the planets coming up in Pyro.
Similar
like a
to
hands-on with most of the major locations.
And density, so it looks really nice when it like covers these rocks. And then we also have like lots of smaller moss on the ground. We combine it with like yellow grass and it makes for like a really interesting biome. So it was really important for us to make this biome look really dense. So we pushed the amount of acids that we're using. So it's basically completely covered in foliage. Compared to Hurston, for example, Hurston and Microtech, which are probably our densest planets when it comes to foliage, this is way denser. The good thing is that we don't have any trees here, so all the budget we can use on ground cover, on grass. Now we jump to a pyro coast biome. The improvements we got to the coast biomes is that we can now use a OPR override for every single biome. Previously, we could only use one global override per planet, which, as you can imagine, is not enough when you have something like Stanton 4, where you have snowy regions and the spruce tree regions, and one object preset just can't cover every coast.
So there is another look at another panel. Really, the point of me showing you all these is just to kind of set expectations as to what this stuff looks like. They're not going to be this long. These are all like 30-minute long panels, as I said. This is a 5.5-hour CitizenCon. This year's CitizenCon Direct is planned to be what sounds like closer to 2 hours, 2.5 hours maybe. And probably not as big as an event because, as we all know, they are focused on Squadron. And who knows, maybe this will be their kickoff point for Squadron 42's marketing. Honestly, we're going to have to talk about that at some point. If Squadron is releasing next year, they've got a difficult marketing campaign ahead of them with, well, honestly with Grand Theft Auto coming up, but also I feel like, actually no, there's not really any other big space games that I can think of. But Grand Theft Auto is going to make it difficult for everybody. A release day at CitizenCon? I don't think they should. I think maybe they could do like a quarter or a half. They could see like Q4 of 2026 or whatever. I don't think that they should do a specific date though. They shouldn't do a specific date for Squadron 42 until the game has literally been sent to vendors. And they can be like, okay, it's good. Gonna release in 3 weeks. The Expanse game will be out at some point. It doesn't feel like a next year kind of game though. Maybe. Wouldn't matter to you if suit lockers are functional. In the current pattern of gameplay, it just sounds like a way to lose your gear. I hope suit lockers are functional. Oh, give me 1 second, guys. Stand by. I will be right back, folks. Just gotta let Mrs. Tomato in. Stand by. Enjoy the music. Listen to your heart's content. It should only take me like a minute. We back. We're supposed to have suit lockers that will have insurance on our ships. Suit lockers will be great, man. I hate that they teased suit lockers last year. You go back to, I think I gave the whole, like, this is basically what we know about CitizenCon, October 11th. We'll see what they do. I don't think this is going to be a super hype CitizenCon, like with features and stuff. I think this is going to be a very progress report kind of CitizenCon, and a chance for them to start shifting their messaging and advertising towards Star Citizen 1.0 and Squadron 42. Last year they did that a whole bunch, but this year feels like they've actually done some effort towards that direction, and they can flaunt that a little bit and talk about next steps. So we'll see what it is, but I think it's going to be a fairly small deal compared to what last year's CitizenCon was. Owlcat is also making DLC for Rogue Trader plus another 40k game. Oh, another 40k game, wow. I don't even remember what I was about to. I was gonna. Oh, it was something that you guys had mentioned. That's right, Exodus also. Exodus does seem more like a 2026 kind of game. We're due for an update on that game soon, I feel. You're happy that CIG is all hands on deck for Squadron because you want the game to succeed big time. 60 to 70 hour campaign. I've heard about 40 hours. Well, I've heard, no, not 40. I think I've heard 20 to 35 hours or something like that. Yeah, Exodus will be good. We're eating well. Exodus is there. You know that? Jump ship. Alan, you come bless us again? My man. Oracle quit my job and be self-fulfilled win. Space Tomato Oracle quit my job and be self-fulfilled win. Brother, follow your heart. Is your heart telling you to quit your job? And you sit down and you have a long talk with your heart, because we're in a pretty sketchy situation right now with this economy. Tell it you gotta hold on a minute and see how things turn out, okay? Toes. Okay. Wow, that's a lot of cool air. The door's been closed this whole time, and Mrs. Tomato just opened it, and she's like, I can't breathe. The air's too warm. Yeah, it's hot in here. The room's temperature is like the temperature of my computer. I probably couldn't run a game right now. It'd be like I have nowhere to put the heat. You work to live, don't live to work. Yeah, Lurch. That is the way. What's Exodus? Can you show a video or more info on it? Yeah. One like and I'll quit my job. One like and I'm on my way. Put it in there. Exodus is I hate to call it a Mass Effect like, because that feels a little rude to just simplify a game down to what game is it most like from the past, but this is literally being made by some of the leads on the old Mass Effect games, and it's basically I think it's a third-person action adventure sci-fi RPG that focuses on time dilation, character development, and building a squad. So very, very Mass Effect-esque in terms of its format. But it gets pretty deep in sci-fi. They actually got a really big artist. Who was it? Like a pretty well-known sci-fi artist, Peter F. Hamilton. What does he write? He's written Salvation, Pandora's Star, Judas Unchained, Fallen Dragon, Neutronium Alchemist. He's got like a bookography. Bibliography, there it is. And he's done a lot of sci-fi stuff, I guess. But they hired him, if I'm not mistaken, to write a book for Exodus. So they're both trying to hit this from the game is deep. It's got a lot of lore kind of perspective. A huge amount of lore actually already. But they're also coming at it from a multifaceted approach. They want to do books. They want to do probably short stories. I could see them doing comics for this. Here is the trailer. If you haven't seen it before.
Preparing to transfer now. This is your last chance to bail, June.
Do it.
weapon is a hell of a way to greet your new partner.
So you're June.
We're burning time. Now that we're all best of friends, let's make each other rich. I'm not just here to look pretty. I've got away with celestial tech.
Who hits a bear?
I see a lot of potential in this new partnership.
Let me light the way for you.
Target acquired.
Many thanks again for your help.
You should have been honest. This place is forbidden. The price is death. That's what it means to be a traveler.
Dude, that's totally the same guy in the future. Like, that's definitely him. This has got to be a whole, you somehow created a different person somehow, and I'm him, and we're kind of thing, right? They look too similar, or are they just going with that many generic looking dudes in the game that they all look? Because a lot of these guys look very similar. Look at this. Like, what? Are you brothers? Did you come from the same person? Are all these people the same person? I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. Obviously, there's a lot mixed up in this trailer that I'm sure we'll look back on once we finish the game and be like, ha, that was right out in the open. Alan, you got a question? What kind of bear is best? I'm a big black bear fan, but I'm also from California, so I think that's just peer pressure. Father and son? Could be father and son. It could definitely be father and son. It's like how we're all Asian in SC, are we? I thought we were all from the British Isles. That was the twist? I mean, it is in the trailer. What are we watching? This is called Exodus. It's a new action-adventure sci-fi RPG coming from some of the original developers of the Mass Effect trilogy. I'm very excited for this, but they've been pretty quiet about it for the last several months. Oh, you already know about it. Cool. Hopefully we hear an update on this soon. To be quite honest, though, I'm just happy to be a space nerd because it feels good. Between this and Jump Ship, Osiris Reborn, Star Citizen, Elite Dangerous is having a little resurgence. Dune Awakening, it's not quite a space game, but it's kind of there. Like, just in general, being a sci-fi fan it's feeling good. Cyberpunk 2 is actually probably like 8 years away, never mind. But it's good. This is a single player game, I believe. And what I'm hoping is this does what Starfield was supposed to do. Basically just show people that space games are cool. It doesn't have to be the best game ever, just enough to get people interested in space games. We see an influx in all the other games because people bounce off of that one and find what they actually like. Oh yeah, X4 updates? That's right. X4 is another one. So I mentioned at the beginning of this stream that I do want to start a weekly news sort of show on the channel where I just cover these games weekly. Exodus would be on there. X4 would also be on there. Obviously, we've got interest in the community for those kinds of things. Yeah, that's the one where there's time dilation. So it's like every time you travel, you're passing up hundreds of years or thousands of years or something. Are they making X5? Dude, that's what I was wondering about. I was kind of like not wanting to jump into X4 because I assumed there'd be a sequel coming up soon, but then they were updating X4, so I was like, okay, maybe there's not a sequel. Maybe I'll stick with this. Now you're telling me there isn't a sequel? I don't even know. I don't even know. Yeah, there's a big update coming up for Cyberpunk. I think 2.23, I believe they're calling it. All right. Are you guys ready for something a little different? There is this new game called The Altars. And oh my god, is it good. I'm going to show you a little bit of this game and talk about a bit why I like it, and maybe you'll check it out. If you don't want to, that's fine. But if you're into puzzle games, sci-fi games where you kind of have to like use your, just like twist your brain a little bit more to figure out problems and things going on, this is probably going to be right up your alley. So I'm going to use a channel that I watch often for this, Gamer's Little Playground. I don't have my own gameplay recorded on this because I've been playing on Xbox, but I do think I might play this on stream depending on if you guys like what we're looking at here, like the way it sounds. So just a quick premise to introduce you to what this game is. In The Altars, you're basically a person who is sent on a mission with a crew to distant planets to find a specific material that really hasn't been mined. It hasn't fully been extracted. And you are the first person, I believe, to find and actually extract it. In doing so, you get to use its properties. And one of those properties is basically generating life. And so the way this progresses in the game is it allows you to create alternate paths of your DNA, where you will spawn a person who looks like you, has a lot of the same life milestones as you, but is still a different person. They have different memories, they went through different things, and you get to track the things that happen to them that makes them have the different life, but that different life gives them different skills. So you have to keep cloning yourself to create a big enough team to solve your problems. And your problem is that you're stranded on a planet. So you got this base, and basically you have to manage this whole base, and over time put more and more people inside of here. And you have to put certain rooms inside of this base. It's basically a base building game, right? But it's also a team building game. It's a resource gathering game. And it's a little bit of an action adventure game. I like to refer to it as a Rubik's Cube of puzzles, because it feels like they've taken 3 or 4 different formats for puzzles and put them all together to try and make you stressed out. Is it like Fallout Shelter? I never got to play Fallout Shelter. I remember when they released it. It does seem to have the same kind of format. This feels to me kind of like a combination of like Civilization, Frostpunk, and Satisfactory. A small amount of Satisfactory in there. Let me show you what it looks like though when you are actually, so when you're alternating between you and somebody else, what you have to do is like come into this interface and look at your own memories. Kind of what you've done throughout life that defined you getting to the place that you're at. Let me see if they show the full timeline here. Yeah, so you can see there's a timeline, and these are all your memories. Each one of these little dots is like a full memory that tells you something about your character. And you can see it branches off here. You can constantly pick these different spots throughout your timeline and create a branch that makes a different type of person. So this one makes a refiner, whereas you were normally a miner or a tech person or whatever. So you could split off here to make a scientist, whereas normally you would have basically turned down a job, or rather you would have turned down a position in school because you got a high-paying job. You go back in your timeline and you say, okay, instead of turning down that position and taking the job, I took the position and went into school. And so then what it'll do is it basically takes that decision and creates a new timeline out of it. Oh, he's not doing it yet. Here we go. There we go. So it basically makes a complete new timeline out of that decision. So in this case, they made a scientist. And you know, he's like a little pompous, he's a little more proud, he's straightforward. Different personality.
They're fake. Probably just manufactured to make me feel more like myself, but completely unnecessary otherwise, because here I am with perfectly good eyesight in the womb module, which can only lead to one conclusion: that my body was created to replicate someone who doesn't wear glasses. You. And to do that, of course, you would need to have found rubidium. Besides, I can see no other explanation for a sheep inside a space base. Correct me if I'm wrong.
So every time you do one of these sort of clones, they all have a different reaction to waking up. They wake up, you introduce them to what the heck's going on. Hey, I just created you. You don't actually exist. All your memories are fake, but you're here to help me. And they all kind of have different reactions to this. And each of them have their own mental problems. They have things that pop up that make them feel a little bit sketchy or not good enough to do the job. And you have to placate them. You have to talk to them. You have to make sure they're okay, get the job done, but also be healthy. And it's very much, yeah, it has some Mickey 17 vibes. It's very much a psychological puzzle game. But then when you're not doing that, when you're not managing your team, you have to go outside the base. You have to set up mining networks. You have to find deposits. You have to find ways through the problems that encounter, or that your base encounters. All the while, the planet you're on has a star that's going to burn you all alive. So the whole game is based on this premise of we have to keep moving across the planet, but we also need to make sure as a team we can work together and we're not killing each other, and we're mining goods and making food for ourselves and maintaining a base that has food, water, life support, all the things. It's a handful. But because of that, it makes me play it the same way that Civ does, is where like you're getting ready to finish for the night, but then something finishes that you weren't paying attention to that you set up 2 hours ago. And you're like, okay, well, now that's done. Let me go handle what that is going to do. Okay, well, now I've handled that. Something else is done. Let me go do that. And you got that sort of one more turn vibe every time, and I love it. But this is more of like the action adventure side of it, where you're going out, you're finding things that you need to mine, new locations that you need to put down, like a drill. You got to set up a power network to make sure everything is connected back to your base. And it's a beautiful game, too. See if I can show you. There's a really nice scene here. Also, the music is so good. It is a truly fascinating game. And I was originally pretty interested in it. But this year we don't really have game money, so I wasn't planning on playing it, but it came to Game Pass. And I have been playing the absolute crap out of it on Game Pass. I would highly suggest, if you get it, to just give it a try. So here he's setting up a mining deposit. Let me show you the scanning. The scanning in this game is actually really cool, and I hope, I guess I'm not going to say I hope. I wish Star Citizen did ground scanning like this. It's like this really cool, you basically set up like a light net that can see underground, and then you manually look through this net that you've created to see where the minerals are. So you set these pylons down and they create a net, and then you can see down into that net. You can kind of see where like the minerals are under the ground. And then you send out a wave, and that tells you kind of where the concentration is. So then you set down more probes to create more windows into the ground. And then when you get the full view, it tells you where exactly the concentration is most significant, and you set down your drill. I am only in Act 1 of this game. I haven't moved on to Act 2. I ran into a pretty big problem. And I haven't gotten to get around it yet. But it gets pretty complex. So you can see here, you've got like a production queue. Just like in Civ, you get a production queue. You can set the production queue to run on certain things at certain times. And then you can tell your team that you need them to run that specific station so that that stuff gets done. Depending on what station you need run, you can then go back in and alternate, create a new version of yourself that specifies in that thing, whether it's mining, whether it's a greenhouse, maybe it's somebody who's good at combat, somebody who knows how to keep all of the other folks in line as like a psychologist. It gets deep. I really love the idea of this game. I think I will do something a little better prepared. Right now, I'm just kind of talking to you, ranting about it. I think I want to do something that's a little better prepared though, and show off this game in more detail because this is a gem, and I hope that this game does well in terms of sales and they can continue to build off of it because 11-bit does good stuff. This is also the same company that made Frostpunk. If you've ever played that, you probably understand when I say there are psychological decisions that you have to make in this game that are going to make you feel kind of like a dick at times. Yeah, I think I'll stream this. We should do a gameplay stream of this at some point. I think that'd be good. But there's a little preview of the altars. I'm going to see how people react to this on Space Tomato 2. And if people like it, then we'll start doing more stuff. That's how I'm going to do everything from now on. I'm going to try stuff out on this stream on Space Tomato 2. If you guys are interested in it, then we'll continue on maybe doing like gameplay videos or the main channel stuff or something like that. But I think that there are a lot of people who would enjoy this game if they got to see it. Frostpunk was interesting for you. Did it not go well? Were you one of those child laborers, PK? You got destroyed in Act 2. It gets rough after certain reveal for the altars. Oh no. Yeah, it feels like they're kind of building that up in Act 1. You're like low-key doing stuff that the altars probably do not give a shit about. And the technician is kind of getting into it. He's kind of seeing that. Yeah, I can see it. They do very well with the whole ethical dilemma. I love that, man. More power to them for that one. So yeah, that's the altars. And I think one that everybody should check out at least one point in their life. Children got to earn their food and heating. Earn their heating. They don't get heating. They work to heat. They heat everyone else. Children can still generate their own heat. They're fine. They can get out of there. Just watch your arms in that game. Yeah. Just watch your arms. The other thing I wanted to talk about today was Dune Awakening. I can find the gameplay for that. Can't believe that app shows the time left in the video in seconds. Who's gonna calculate 3,000 seconds? Oh no. What happened there? What is going on? Was that me? Okay, that was just the video player, I guess. Yeah, it's just me switching the video. Okay. That's weird. I've never seen that effect before. Yeah, I wanted to talk a little bit about this game because this has been quite the experience.
But here's the rest of it.
I swear I had more actual footage of me playing. Yeah, here we go. Too much spice. Good spice. Good times. Okay. So let's talk about Dune. This is interesting for me because I've never played an MMO. And I know. Star Citizen is it's an MMO in development. It certainly is that, but it doesn't play quite like an MMO does. And in playing this, I realized it's kind of hard to nail down what makes an MMO if you take away the multiplayer stuff, because this really plays a lot like the kinds of games I liked as a kid. It's an action-adventure RPG. And I know a lot of people jump into MMOs to play them solo, so it's not surprising. But as somebody who's never played an MMO before, I think this is way more approachable than most people who don't play MMOs would think. You call this an MMO light. I could see that. It seems like it was kind of meant to be a survival game, and it could have been on its own, but they added the sort of MMO aspect to it. What would you say makes it an MMO light instead of a full-on MMO? Because from my perspective, I'm thinking it sounds like there's not really a cap on the amount of people who can be around. There's not really a limit on where you can travel to, so you can run into all kinds of bases and other players. It's got that sort of standard run these missions, help these factions, meet these people, do these things, just fill the map out and do that kind of stuff. What to you guys defines an MMO at its core? What separates an MMO from a survival game? It's like Ark. Didn't they make Ark? Or did they make Conan? Player count. So is the player count lower in this game? The thing that I enjoy most about this so far has actually been how much it does remind me kind of Star Citizen. When I go out and I'm traveling, I do have a lot more relative safety, I feel, because there's so much more stuff to do in a small amount of space. But when I'm in these kinds of places and I'm looking to travel out across this sand, it kind of, to me, is similar to looking at another planet in Star Citizen and needing to travel across space. And it's sort of like the, I don't want to say no man's land, but the area where things can happen. And I haven't gotten super far into this game, but I do hope that traveling across the sand does get a little more complex than just being about the worm. Yeah, I think it would be cool if maybe you were more vulnerable to other people's attacks when you're out in the sand, and so you have to keep in mind where other players are and stuff like that. Maybe that's a deep desert thing. But as somebody who's been in early game, it's been a really, really fun time getting to experience this format of like small centralized points of interest and activity, and then these wide spans of space that you have to navigate in order to play the rest of the game. And then all these systemic features that are built into it. The heat that you have to deal with. Is the sun up or down? Is it facing that direction? Well, then maybe you approach from here. Is the sun over there? Well, then maybe you're not set for going in that way. You got these storms that are roaming around. You got these ships that are looking out for you and showing spotlights on the ground. And this is all just early game stuff. I feel like I'm still in the first 10% of the game. So as far as like a systemic background goes, which is a lot of what drew me to Star Citizen, I actually feel like I get a lot of that from Dune too. It's not at all what I'm looking for from a game. I want a space game. I want to be in space stations and seeing different planets. I don't want to be trapped in the desert for hours on hand. But I do really like the experience that it's giving. And it's fun. It's fun. What can I say? Relatively finished early access game can be pretty freaking fun. Super Mac brother. And the Macardoos, I don't know. Mac attacks, the pirates. It's always the pirate. It's the pirate emote that comes in. So I'm just gonna call you guys pirates from now on. Is that okay? Good to see you, Sandman. How have you been? Welcome in, folks. Thank you for joining me. We're doing a whole bunch of news and chatting about space games. We did a lot of Star Citizen today. We talked a little bit about the altars. Now we're talking about Dune. Maybe we'll circle back around to Star Citizen. Thank you, though, for joining me if you are here for a good time. If you're here for a bad time, Also, thank you for joining me, but please don't spread your bad time to others. If you want to get in on our current giveaway ongoing, we're giving away a Asperia Prowler utility because our supporters are amazing and unlock that possibility. Type an exclamation point giveaway if you want to see if you're capable of entering that. You should be if you have fingers. Just use your mouse and keyboard. And maybe stick around. You watch on Twitch, you'll get some more points that'll give you more entries into that one. What's up, Binder? Guild Wars 1 had so many dungeons and hard content, especially with the Eye of the North. Love Vanquishing 2. PK Ava, you guys played a lot of MMOs before? I mean, Ava, I know you said you played Guild Wars, and that was kind of your first experience compared to this. The site cannot be reached. Uh-oh. Huh. That's weird. That shouldn't be the case. That is weird. Looks like there's something going on with the hosting. Give me 1 second, guys. I'm gonna go check that out. All right, we are on it. We'll check that out. YouTube link is working. I was just clicking on that and I couldn't get that to go through. Hold on. No, nobody can enter. All right, getting the website figured out, folks. Thank you for letting me know. We'll make sure that's back online so you guys can enter into that. Just leave that link saved and then put in the stuff. Weird problems. MMO scene in the late 90s and start of 2000s was fun, new, wild, and friendly. And how about now? Guild Wars 2 started friendly for a very long time, still is one of the most friendly communities. So there's something that sets this apart for me from Star Citizen. In this game, I don't feel like I am in any way encouraged to pursue a certain thing besides just like whatever it is that I like. You have skill trees, right? You have skills that you're unlocking that you can use in battle. But overall, I don't feel like I want to be a miner or a cargo hauler or a medic or a ground soldier or a vehicle operator in this game. I just kind of feel like I'm playing an action adventure game and I fit in wherever the need calls in that exact moment. So for that reason, it's definitely not like a long-term kind of game for me. It's more of a gonna have fun in it kind of game. The thing that always drew me to Star Citizen was just the fact that you were living in an environment where everybody else was also living, but they were doing their own thing. They were focusing on their own thing, and you guys kind of bounced off each other and figured things out. What I love about this game is being able to explore, find outposts, see how some of the lore envelops in the gameplay, experience those dynamic features and the systemic features like the sand and the worm and the heat and the sun. Those are the things that really draw me to this. But I'm still waiting to see what kind of gameplay still ties me in further. And I think that's what the early game is there for. So I've only put in probably 10 hours maybe at this point, 9 hours. I'm not that far in, but I am excited to see where it goes. I know I'm late to the game, but we'll see. We'll see what happens, what comes of this. We just opened a We're about to open a category for this in the Discord server, so anybody who does play this game and wants more people to play with or a place to chat about it or hang out and talk about it, you'll have plenty of that in our own Discord server. And we'll probably be doing some more gameplay in this, more streams here in the next few weeks, days and weeks, and stuff like that. Stuff like that, he says. Oh yeah, and then the base building. The base building is really nice. It's simple, but still gives me enough control that I feel like I'm actually putting something together. I actually haven't had a game where I've enjoyed base building all that much. Most of the games I've done it in were very unfocused on it. No Man's Sky kind of focuses on base building, but not a super huge ton. And then just some other games here and there that I've played that had a little bit of base building, like Astroneer. But this was the first one where I really felt like I was getting some pride in the base that I made. And then it was really cool when at the end of it all, we were flying around the game map and I could actually see my base off in the distance. Somewhere here. I don't know if I can find that shot. Oh no, that was after the stream. That was after the recording, I think. This is basically just a mission to build a base and figure out what I needed to do to build a base. I got some supplies, we made it back to our home, and then we put the whole base together. And honestly, this was a good session. That's almost the entire game. A lot of systems are simple, but just good. Now the MMO scene is a mixed bag. Too many Lusman children playing. Lusman? You're always jealous of your mate who played WoW from launch. You always used to rave about how wonderful the community was. You feel like you're finally getting your fill of that with Star Citizen. It's nice to be a part of the initial community of a game. Huge sense of camaraderie. We started out this stream talking about community, how it drives people, how it helps to like build friendships and health and a functioning society. And part of that's also video games. Creating communities around video games and being a part of it helps you have more purpose and value and friends and good feelings and like obviously violence, because you know video games breed violence and children killing people. So yeah, I'm digging what this game has, and I'm looking forward to experiencing more of it, especially base building. But those are my quick and easy thoughts on Dune, and I guess more to come. I gotta actually figure out my thoughts so I can write a script and make a real video. Because when I do things unscripted, I never get the point across. Hopefully some point it came across today. Base building here looked a lot like your very small interaction with building in No Man's Sky. It is. The thing about building in No Man's Sky is it's hard to find reasons to do it. The reasons that you have to build stuff in No Man's Sky are yours to define. And if you're just starting out in the game and you don't actually have anything you're shooting for, that makes it feel a little bit guideless. This did a really good job of making me feel like I needed to create a base and also use that base for things immediately. No Man's Sky did a good job of the whole, oh, you're out in the middle of nowhere, you gotta repair your ship. That was a cool start. But the base building for it never really captured me. Wish you could play SC with your friends like this. Yeah, that's how it usually goes. That is how it goes, man. Websites are back up. Thank you, Mrs. Tomato. Crisis averted, folks. Exclamation point giveaway to get the link pop up. Go into that giveaway. Check out the Asperia Prowler utility. Might do something good for you. All right, last thing I want to touch on here is the stories ongoing in Star Citizen this year. We've got a A story and a B story, and I feel like we haven't really heard much about the A story in a while. So I figured we'd go back and listen to what the narrative team was actually saying about the A story and Maybe we'll catch something here that we missed before about where it's going from here. As of right now, they're real focused on the whole regen thing. Toter Kenny, you want more Dune streams? Dude, thank you for saying that. I appreciate that. You weren't sure of SC before, but after the free fly, you are a believer. Matthew Fox. Pretty cool. You tried the free fly on SC last weekend before your system crashed. Your friend showed you around. You got to ride the tram, fly, and landed a ship. Done a couple of PvE sessions. Matthew, how long have you known about Star Citizen? I'm very interested now. If you weren't really sure about it before the free fly and that convinced you, that's a valuable testimonial. Emma, your first free fly was a few months ago. There's a special feeling when you land a ship for the first time. True that. I'm glad the free flies went well for you guys. They used to be an absolute pain. Matthew Fox is in Jack from Lost. Is that what Jack called himself? For a few years, actually. Okay, so you kind of known about it, just weren't too sure about it. Would you be possibly interested in joining me and a couple of friends on a stream so we could maybe show you a little bit more of the game, and the folks who watch this stream can maybe get a chance to see again what it looks like to somebody who's newly playing? We are working on starting back up our new player experience streams here on the channel. And people who are just getting into it are kind of the folks that we're looking for. You'd be down? Would you be willing to join our Discord? And if you could ping me on that Discord, we can get you set up and see when you might have a chance to hop in with us. Usually we do it on Wednesdays. I don't know what your time zone is, but would love to get in contact and set something up. Yogi, you're having a blast with Dune. It gets you more excited for the future of SC and crafting. Dune also tells me that I really like when I can automate actions, but I feel like I don't expect the crafting in Star Citizen to be nearly as nonchalant. Like, I don't expect to be able to just click things to craft and then walk away and have them make themselves. Although I do like that in Dune. So much fun grinding. It can be fun grinding. You just gotta deliver it well. Matthew, your PST. Do early PST mornings work for you at all, or are you at work? I understand if you are, no problem. Oh, that was the actor's name. We have to go back. We gotta watch Lost again soon. Good series. You know, the one of the showrunners of Lost is coming up with a new show. They were working on From, which is great. If you haven't seen From, if you like Lost, watch From. Pretty solid. But they're working on a new show called The Academy of Something Children or something like that. Basically about a school, kind of like X-Men, but not as happy and do good. And it'll be on MGM Plus, which, of course, we have to have an MGM Plus. But I do like those kinds of shows. Yeah, From is amazing. From is so good. It is so good, my friends, that me and Mrs. Tomato watched, I believe it was the season premiere of From Season 2 in September of last year. And it messed us up. It f***ed us up so much that we didn't watch the second episode of that same season until, I think, May of this year. And it didn't help. The time away didn't help. We watched it, and then we were like, why did we start watching this again? It's so hard to watch. That show can mess you up. How can you make the show Lost and not call the next show Found? I thought, honestly, they were just going to call it Extra Lost. Like, I can't find it. Matthew, you're currently on that medical leave, so you have time. Okay, cool. then yeah, please hop into the Discord. !Discord will make the link pop up. Throw me a little ping, just tag me in there, and I'll respond and we'll get that set up. Should be a good time. Yeah, Tim, that is the show with the people trapped in the small town and the ridiculous monsters come out at night. It's basically Lost, but if it was a horror show. Oh yeah, we were gonna play this. Let's listen to what they have to say about these pyro stuff that we're supposed to be playing through, but has kind of been on pause since the regen crisis has started.
Crisis, Wicklo's arrival. We've taken a break from the fight for pyro at the moment. So let's we get back into that a little bit in this next Invictus patch. What's happening in pyro?
Oh, that's right. The whole Capture the Polaris was part of the A story. It's interesting that they're mixing the stories between events and sandbox activities. I wonder what the plan is for the events specifically. They just rebrand them to be in different factions and different systems later?
3 factions right now. Where are we at in their story at the moment?
Well, I guess just to fill in the fight for pyro is we have the introduction of a new group called the Frontier Fighters, who have
slicers.
who have a different take on the pyro solution, right? Because we've established for a long time the Citizens for Prosperity, who are out there who are like, if we just resettle pyro, we can turn it around. If there's more economic development here,
yeah, sure.
And the UAE will care more, then we'll get more resources, more funds, and we can make it safe, and in turn make the neighboring system safer. And that's their plan. And the Frontier Fighters are like, no, that's going to take too long. You've been trying to do this. All you're doing is sending resources in there that outlaws just steal. You're making the situation worse. Our solution is burn it to the ground. It's called pyro, let's burn it up. And so they've come in here and to kind of get the ball rolling, it turns out they pretended to be a pyro outlaw group called the Slicers. They did a huge terrorist attack on.
How do you guys feel about this story? I know there was a lot of frustration with it when they first revealed the whole twist because people felt like it wasn't properly communicated in the game. As far as the story itself goes, though, are you feeling good or bad about the A story? You went past a queue on a station yesterday, and one of the NPCs was really complaining about the regen. Was kind of funny. Yeah. It's nice to have NPCs actually talking in the game now.
Stand system. And then they're like, come on, everyone, let's get those slicers, and trying to get the whole system agitated. Because they saw what happened when Xenothreat did their attack. They were like, this was good, but not good enough. Let's do it better.
It says everything you need to know about these people. the uber racists did a good job, but they didn't go far enough.
Well, as far as agitating, standing into action.
Yeah.
Because pyro is one of those problems that's so big that it feels easier to ignore. Like, so it's easy enough to be like, it's there, it's fine. And just deal with like, oh, we'll catch this one shipjacker, we'll catch this one outlaw, but it doesn't help the larger problem of an outlaw system.
So how did the idea of the Slicers / Freedom Fighter, Frontier Fighters reveal come about?
I believe it was a conversation with design. They were basically looking for they had built this sort of series of missions that were supposed to kind of build up towards the release of Pyro System. And so there was that initial thing of the like, oh, you can pick from these 3, and then suddenly they wanted to make it shift to 2. So we had to kind of figure out, like, look at kind of their outline of how they wanted to do things and figure out like, all right, well, how can we phase it from 3 to 2? And, you know, basically kind of hit all of the markers that they needed to hit, and then tell a story that could be fun, that would sort of, again, the goal was, hey, Pyro's coming out. We want people to go to Pyro. So how do we incentivize people to go storming into Pyro? And it's been one of the things we'd actually years ago had talked.
Now Pyro is like, I guess the 4.2 stuff kind of got Pyro going, but I constantly see people being like, newcomers will come in and be like, oh, I see I have to go to Pyro, but I don't really want to go in there. Is it dangerous? Is it scary? And people like, dude, Pyro's safer than Stanton. And genuinely, you can get yourself more space in Pyro because it's so big and there's so many locations that it is almost like they need to make artificial reasons for people to go into Pyro right now because there's still not enough resource dependence to call for it, even though we spent years talking about there needing to be. We're still not there.
It's about a similar thing for Xenothreat as well, of them taking over like the jump point station and then fleeing into Pyro. And so it was basically, the Navy gave you the go ahead to go in. So it was like a bunch of missions for players, but it's the same type of thing. Like, you know, figure out a storyline that would ultimately culminate with the invasion of Pyro. And so we sort of circled around this idea of the Frontier Fighters being a much more hardline version of CFP basically. And then, you know, and talking with design, kind of came up with this hook of turning them into the villains, basically.
I still don't feel like they have the means to make this interesting either. Aaron Roberts, in an interview a couple of months ago, stated that they would indeed have locations switch faction ownership. So if you went into an outpost for headhunters, you killed them all, and you were aligned with Citizens for Prosperity, those people might come and take that outpost over. And then it would be an outpost where you can actually ship goods because you are friends with those people and other people would do that. Honestly, that sounds incredibly complex to me. I don't know if I believe that that's going to happen, but if it did happen, I think it would make this whole thing with Pyro more interesting because they talk about this invasion of Pyro, but like we've invaded Pyro. And then we came back to Stanton and nothing changed. And for these things to really make a difference, I think they're going to have to actually change the game. And they still don't have the features or the manpower to be able to do that. So all of these things sort of fall a bit flat, I think. And that's a bummer because obviously we all want to do things that make a difference in the game.
Wicola's arrival. We've taken a break from the fight for Pyro.
Oops. Just jumped back on accident.
And to kind of get the ball rolling, it turns out they pretended to be a Pyro outlaw group called the Slicers. They did
it says everything you need to know about these
of an outlaw system.
So how did the idea of the Slicers / Freedom Fighter, Frontier Fighters reveal come about?
I believe it was a conversation with design. They were basically looking for they had built this sort of series of missions that were supposed to kind of build up, make it shift the markers that they needed to hit, and then tell a story that could be fun, that would sort of, again, the goal was, hey, Pyro's coming out, we want people to go to Pyro, so how do we incentivize people to go storming into Pyro? And it's been one of the things we'd actually years ago had talked about a similar thing for Xenothreat as well, of them taking over like the jump point station and then fleeing.
They have this real thing of like not wanting to just go all in on an industrial focused objective. Just to see, like, just spawn all the valuables in Pyro and then just see what happens without a sandbox activity or an event. I don't know why they're not experimenting with more stuff like that. Your internet connection's crap today and this keeps dropping every 5th word out, so you can't take it. Have a good rest of the stream. Matt, I am sorry to hear that, buddy. Thanks for hanging out even with the bad internet. I hope you have a fantastic day. I'll see you on Wednesday, dude.
Into Pyro, and so it was basically, the Navy gave you the go ahead to go in, so it was like a bunch of missions for players, but it's the same type of thing. Like, you know, figure out a storyline that would ultimately culminate with the invasion of Pyro. And so we sort of circled around this idea of the Frontier Fighters being a much more hardline version of CFP basically. And then, you know, and talking with design, kind of came up with this hook of turning them into the villains basically. So turning Frontier Fighters into the bad guys, hence why you had to fall into CFP or headhunters.
And I'm glad I asked that question because you answered exactly what I was hoping you were going to say.
Thank you.
This idea, looking at the questions in that thread, I think sometimes there's this idea that everything starts with narrative and everything, you know, it's like everybody else in the company has to do what you decide the story.
Yo, Leo, thank you for the sub on Twitch, my friend. Appreciate you. Should give you an extra entry into the giveaway if it hasn't already.
Free is, and that's not the case. it's not the case. This is a collaborative a thing, and many people have a voice. Not me, or we'd have Jalopy, but other people have voices where we would like to do this.
Jalopy or the Meteor. He can't even use that anymore because we got the Meteor. Basically his Jalopy.
But that's something that happens
Combat
quite a lot.
Jalopy.
Designers come and say, we would like to make this kind of content. We would like to do something like this. Can you help us find a way to fit that into the universe that you've created? And that's a big part of what you guys do day in and day out with this. So this question came from the chat, and it's in the Meyer was asking, Meyer, I thought better of you, man. Why can't we stay on the freedom fighters' side? Why don't you let us be the genocidal terrorists who want to just wholesale slaughter thousands and thousands and thousands of innocent people?
Yeah. What's wrong with that?
I mean, kind of answered your own question.
The frontier fighters.
I don't know what you're talking about, dude.
Enemy
Plenty of the people in power in the world seem to think that this is a good thing. So what should I think as a small, impressionable individual growing up in such a world?
I know some people aligned with them and they wanted to keep working for them, but our idea was always to have them as an ongoing enemy faction for the rest of the story we're telling this year. And going forward, not every faction that you encounter in the game is going to be one that the players can actively work for.
Nonsense.
And they're these purely hostile factions. And we need them from gameplay reasons, is that as the reputation system slowly evolves, we want a similar experience for players who always can arrive in a location and have someone to attack or who is attacking them without having to worry about how the reputation system is going to change how they behave or the dialogue lines, because there's a high cost with that. We do want to have some reputation-based gameplay where the player's alignment will affect the outcome or how they experience these things.
Yes.
But that's going to be much more controlled.
It has to be within reason.
Yeah.
It has to be within technical reason, has to be within a feature reason, has to be within time, the amount of time that we can invest into creating different variations. I mean, everybody.
There's the big one. That's the big one, is the time. I remember this kind of triggered me when it first happened back when they aired this. This episode, I forgot, was kind of, it feels like CIG's way of being like, we're taking a step back on reputation and we're going to make it a little bit more traditional like a game would be, rather than like free form with all the factions considering you. It's this, and then there's another moment somewhere else in this episode where they're basically saying, we don't want players to have to deal with the consequences of ruining their reputation, and it just pisses me off. God, it makes me so damn angry. I'm sorry. That was the point. And I don't know how they're going to do it, but just the way they keep talking about it in this episode, where they're like, yeah, we don't want people to have to deal with things changing because they did something. And then you're like, well, that's why I signed up for Star Citizen. And I'm trying not to draw conclusions that that's absolutely what they're going to do. They obviously need to pick and choose where they expand and scale back certain things in the game. But reputation is definitely not the kind of place that I thought that they would scale back. So I'm hoping that they don't do too much to it.
Everybody that's ever played a video game that has branching storylines knows you can only have so many different branches and stuff. Otherwise, it just goes on and on and on. And it becomes impossible. I say that, and then Baldur's Gate 3 was like, hold my beer. Shout out to Baldur's Gate 3. But even there are limits, and that's like this. So it's limits in time, limits in technology, limits in functionality, and our own desires. I don't think we're not making a game where you can do absolutely every single thing in the universe. There's a game we learn every week, the game that we want to make. We evolve, Chris evolves, you guys evolve, we all have different ideas every week and whatever, and we start to think, this is the kind of game we want to make and stuff, as we see players react and stuff like this. And it's not to say that maybe someday down the road you're not going to be able to join space Nazis or whatnot, but at this moment where we're at,
I will say no.
That's my point. But at this moment where we're at, it's like, no, that's not something we're really looking for.
But again, like, I mean, going back to the sort of the conversation about the guilds that we outlined in sort of the Road to 1.0 thing, like there's going to be a criminal guild. Like there are, if you are looking for that type of, you know, underworld working for the dark side type, you know, characters and interactions and factions and stuff like that, we have that. Like you
It's a bad guy guild. Instead of, I hope it's not instead of, it just sounds so much like, oh, we don't want to do companies are gray and they may disagree with the way that you do things and not want to work with you. Instead, we just kind of want to say you're either good or you're bad. And if you're bad, you have to work with this group. And if you're good, you work with all of these. That's sort of, that kind of lines up with the way the community has been going, in that a lot of people don't want Star Citizen to be a dangerous game with a lot of combat and bad people and stuff like that. But it also really feels like it just is not as freeform as Reputation was originally going to be. Let me see if I can find what they used to say about it. I'm getting completely distracted. We were going to talk about the storylines right now, but then Reputation comes up and I can't be helped. Let's hear what they were saying about Reputation back when they first introduced the system.
Members towards you. It's going to control a lot of things like whether or not they want to attack you or help you, for instance. And then there's confidence / that we can affect affinity through just your everyday action. Specifically across
and here we go.
So long as it has a persistent ID with it, we can track a value against it.
Still alive.
Track values for a player's reputation with an entity. And when I say entity, that could be an NPC, an organization, heck, it could be a table if you want. So long as it has a persistent ID with it, we can track a value against it.
In reality, it will only be guilds, it sounds like. So it could have been all those things 4 years ago. Now that we're actually getting to the point where it's getting implemented, it is not necessarily all those things.
I think.
Not only can we track a value, we can track several values. Those values are in something that we call a scope. When we say scope, we're talking about two different things. There's affinity, which is this kind of measure of how much a entity likes you, and that's common across all these entities, NPCs, organizations, etc.
Hello.
It's common across all
Wait, I love
these
that this
entities,
guy,
NPCs, or
this dude, Constantine Hurston, is like the head of the massive Hurston company. And it says his allies are Hurston Dynamics and his rivals are the Workers' Party. Oh, he's not even the head. He's the freaking junior outsourcing agent, you freaking plebe.
these organizations, etc.
Hello.
A few different things affect affinity. It's going to be mostly your mission performance, and more specifically, actually, what you do during that mission. That's when affinity will really get big boosts. It is also worth noting that we can affect affinity through just your everyday action. For organizations, affinity is a little bit different in that it kind of represents the amalgamated opinion of that organization and its members towards you. It's going to control a lot of things like whether or not they want to attack you or help you, for instance.
So that, I'm pretty sure, is definitively wrong at this point. They will no longer have these organizations attack or defend you. They will always defend you. And the only groups that will attack you will be ones that are specifically supposed to attack you. I think it's hard to tell, but they basically talk about how they don't want has black magic on. They don't want people to feel like they are getting hurt or their gameplay is being damaged because they made some kind of mistake with one of these factions.
And then there's confidence / career. Confidence is exclusive to mission givers, and it kind of says how good they think you are at your job. Career is how an organization might be tracking that same value, how good you are at your job. The difference with an organization is that they can have several career scopes. So a security company like Crusader Security might have a bounty scope, but they also might have a defense scope or a jailer scope or any number of these career scopes that we want to track your different levels of career proficiency with different kinds of gameplay.
That sounds like it is out of the game.
Within scopes, we have this concept of standings. These are the ranks that you move through from negative whatever to positive whatever, and we can tell when we assess you, either through the missions or the mission givers or NPCs or however they are looking at you, what standing you are at. One of the things that we are very excited to have is these reputations giving you things when you get to those higher standings. The idea is that this is giving you benefits and rewards for progressing through the game. It's a progression system at its heart. The other thing that I'm really excited about with this coming out is the concept of allowing for group building and community building with this by allowing you to bring something unique to your group of friends table. You might have a reputation with a certain organization at a high level that your other friends don't, and you've maybe done a little bit of extra work to maintain that, get that up there, etc. And as a result, you're able to bring in something cool like a mission that normally they wouldn't be able to do. Plus, everybody likes bragging rights. We all know that you're going to be putting up screenshots on the subreddit or whatever saying, look at all these reputations I have at max, look at what I'm able to maintain, all that. We're darn excited about how that's going to play out potentially.
We were too. They're working on Reputation V2. I'm really trying to bite my tongue most of the time with this stuff. I know every once in a while we happen upon this discussion again and I get a little pissy about Reputation, but I am trying to wait to make any sort of a main channel video or any big statement about this until they show us what Reputation V2 is. But Reputation was one of the more exciting parts of the game for me, and I am a little bit bummed that it doesn't sound like they are trying to stick to the model that they originally set out for it. I think there's actually, if I can find the exact point where they mention the major changes that they're making to it, so you guys can understand why I feel this way. Corporation to control these other, so we're going to slowly change it. Do long-term reputation with them instead. Local factions and local people, you could still get paying jobs. No. More factions that you're working for, very localized.
You can be criminals. You can be criminals. You can be pirates and things. It's just it's just a question of how far into depravity we look.
An early version of the reputation system had a lot more factions that you're working for. They were going to be very localized, so that as you traveled from planet to planet, you were starting to build your reputation up. And
it's literally what he was just saying in the video we watched.
Turned out like that level of complexity wasn't delivering on the experience that we wanted. So we kind of have.
So it's like, this is a really good lesson of like what Jared was saying earlier. Even if they're saying something about how the features are going to work, at some point they might come in and be like, it doesn't work that way, that's game development. That is the truth of it. But dang, does that make it hard to predict where things are actually even going at this point.
Pared back so that the factions will ideally have larger differences from each other, so that you're not just shuffling back and forth between like 20 identical delivery companies. Like for 1.0, we want each, company that you work for to have its own vibe, its own voice, and those are going to be the ones, and for you to grow along with them from system to system. So a lot of the factions that we previously thought was going to be Pyro only or Stanton only are going to expand out into the other systems, so you can have a continuous experience as you travel through the star systems. Like,
that actually is a bit of a bummer, because one of the cool things I thought when he was mentioning, oh yeah, you bring something to the table when you have a different reputation. I was like, cool. So if I have a good reputation in Terra, I can be the person that leads the group runs in Terra, because everyone out there knows me. I run the missions. We bring the group in there. I'm not going to go and run those missions in Castra because I don't have the reputation that can fit the factions there. But basically they're saying now, if you have good reputation with the good guys, any star system you go to, those good guys will know who you are and you guys will match up. That works for a more simplified game. In reality, when we're actually playing a fully finished game, that will probably feel better. It'll probably make more sense. It'll be easier to understand. and it'll be more exaggerated across the game, which makes it feel more gamified and just in general more like a normal game would. Doesn't change the fact that the imagine aspect of the original delivery of Reputation still sets your expectations to hope for something that is actually much more different. That's what the game's always been about, delivering something that seemed bigger than they could do if they were trying to go about it the normal traditional way. But over time, they have run out of time, and as they're getting closer and closer to the released project, it is becoming more and more like what you would expect from a game, which is good and bad, I think.
And so I think a part of that is kind of limiting who you're going to be able to grow that reputation with. We're going to have local factions and local people that you can still get paying jobs with and do small mission chains with, but you won't necessarily be earning a permanent reputation with them that's tracked and affects other people. So it's going to be a lot more focused and hopefully deliver a more in-depth experience for those factions that you do work with.
We've mentioned in the past, obviously.
So yeah, basically there will be non-reputation focused individuals and factions that you're meeting up with. We'll see how it goes. Would it be one of the reasons why we haven't heard of the rep system since 4.0 launched? They're just not working on it. They've got to get all the factions and guilds into the game, and then they're going to probably build it out. No new info out of Quantum Vegas yet, no. All right, y'all. I'm going to wrap things up there. Thank you, everybody, for being here for today's stream. I hope you had a good time. Hope it was entertaining and you got to have some fun. Asked all your questions. Said all your things. Maybe rage a little bit in the chat. Always nice to have something to rage about. Romanorum. Can you link your Tomato Talk podcast? I'd be curious to listen to that. I think if you type in podcast in the chat, ! Podcast, that should bring it up for you. Thanks for asking. If that doesn't bring it up, I will drop the link. Where are we going? I'm gonna drop y'all with Kyosa. I've seen them through different parts of Star Citizen here and there. Seem like a good person, so I'm gonna drop you in. Looks like they're having some fun in Star Citizen, doing some stuff, exploring around. Please go in, drop the toes, let them know it's a toes raid. Keep them on their toes. You know how it is. If you want to see more Dune, have a great day. We will do more Dune. We will do more Star Citizen and Dune. And when it comes out, Jump Ship. And when it also comes out, Osiris. And when it also comes out, Exodus. I just want to get more space games. Oh, and First Project. We'll probably show you guys Verse Project later this week. I'll go ahead and grab this and we will jump into the demo. This is another open world sort of like, I don't know if this is supposed to be an MMO, but it is supposed to be a single solar system space game similar to Star Citizen. So we'll check this out later this week. I'll give you guys a look at what the gameplay looks like, and we'll talk about how likely it is we'll jump in. But honestly, I want to cover more space games in general. So if you're into that, please subscribe to the main channel. Going to be starting that news show next week to try and give you guys more news about all the different space games in the industry and have some fun doing it. There we go. Thank you all again for being here. Y'all have a great day. Much love to you. Treat yourselves well. Do something that you love today. Please go do something. Treat yourselves like the good people you are. Eat something super delicious. Rub your heads. Rub your head a little bit. You know, go to bed early. Get some skincare in. I'm going to go take a shower because it's sweaty as all in here. And I will see you on Wednesday. Catch you on Discord. See you in stalking you from outside your house, at the grocery store, wherever it might be. Keep an eye out. There could be a tomato anywhere. You never know. I don't know what I'm talking about. All right, I'm gonna head out. Thank you guys all for being here. Have a good one. See you on Wednesday. And yeah, as you can tell, I have a hard time saying bye. Bye.